Chapter 1079. He turned his head to look into the distance. Lord Go, who was walking like a cat, focused his eyes. Realm Lord Dit was extremely serious. Although he was usually a clown, once he fought, he was still very powerful. A moment later, Feng Guanzhong's eyes fell on Realm Lord Dit and Mingqi. Said Lu Mabai with a grin. Lord Go said, "Dark Nether Cooking Realm?" Shui Yao's eyes were filled with fear, her body shivering unceasingly. City Lord Mingqi was bewildered. The Realm Lord was the Realm Lord after all. His cultivation base was much stronger than hers. There was a loud bang. His gaze seemed to have traversed thousands of miles and saw the void that had been torn apart in the distance. A black light beam shot up to the sky, descending from the sky. As soon as that dish appeared, thick nether energy wound around it. It directly patted on the blood-colored gem, completely shattering the crack. A dish shrouded in black energy could actually release such an aroma. Lu Mabai raised the kitchen knife inlaid with the blood-colored gem, absorbing the black lightning. A pitch-black bolt of lightning struck down, and the other 3 thunderclouds were instantly scattered. A terrifying beam of light soared into the sky, blasting a huge hole in the sky. City Lord Mingqi descended, landing beside the Zhou Lords. Her mind flickered, raising her slender sleeves and pulling the void. Instantly, she tore the void, reaching her hand into it. A moment later, black clouds rolled. City Lord Mingqi said. Each wisp of nether energy around her palm seemed to weigh more than 10,000 pounds. The void seemed to tremble unceasingly under this palm. This caused Shui Yao and the others to be even more shocked. That one is the nether prison expert. However, because of the heavenly path's obstruction of the heaven tree, that fellow couldn't get in. Of course, the most important thing is that as soon as it showed its head, I, Lord Go, smacked it back with my paw. Feng Guanzhong's ferocious explosion was actually heading towards the Heaven Tree Palace. He guided the black lightning and headed straight for the Heaven Tree Palace. That black light enveloped Feng Guanzhong's body. After stuffing the last piece of meat into the Zhou Lord's mouth, he put away the porcelain bowl. But it was obvious. That dog had gone to Bufang's place, so he had to settle this himself. Terrifying nether energy burst forth from the palm. As it descended, the void collapsed from the pressure. Realm Lord Dit's eyes were sharp, his golden hair fluttering in the wind. Then, a rich aroma immediately spread out. Chef? Bufang was slightly stunned. The blood-red palm blotted out the sky. The next moment, it opened its mouth and let out a loud bark. The bark sounded like the evening drum and morning bell. A furious roar came from the crack that was filled with nether energy. Their tribulation clouds were actually broken by that lightning punishment. Picking up the chopsticks, City Lord Mingqi shoved pieces of spirit beast meat with immortal energy into the Zhou Lord's mouth, which made the Zhou Lord's breath stagnate. That black wok fell really fast. Before Feng Guanzhong could react, it had already smashed down. He shoved the dish with the black nether energy into his mouth. The void exploded, colluding with the nether prison to kill a Qilin chef. A beast like you deserves to die. Sizzle. Sizzle. From the hole, an explosion resounded. A blood-red knife energy slashed out, slashing down. At this moment, the swaying heaven tree was cut in half by the knife energy. Meng Kuan and the others were so frightened. This Lu Mabai was a monster. He wasn't some heaven chief. Apparently, after the battle with Realm Lord Dit, he was severely injured. At the same time, City Lord Mingqi and the Zhou Lords were a little puzzled. The sound of their battle was very intense, causing the ground to crack and the sky to tremble. That blood-red palm instantly collapsed. Boom! In the next moment, their faces became pale. Feng Guanzhong gritted his teeth, and blood oozed out of his mouth. With a loud explosion, the ground caved in. A stove's pressure shook the sky. Realm Lord Dit threw it out, smashing it on the ground. Greed shot out from his eyes. At this moment, he didn't hide his intentions and schemes anymore. Although Feng Guanzhong had swallowed 2 Qilin chef's hearts, his power still couldn't compare to Realm Lord Dit. Realm Lord Dit's eyes narrowed. That dish seemed to be a delicacy cooked with spirit beast meat. It was overflowing with light, and thick immortal energy twirled around it. Sizzle. Sizzle. It was filled with anger and unwillingness. Feng Guanzhong didn't think that he would be beaten like a dead dog. Staggering up from the ground, Feng Guanzhong's entire body was in a sorry state. On his pitch-black skin, fresh blood gushed out. She also raised her gaze, looking into the distance. However, before he could react, Bu Feng was stunned. Realm Lord Dit's golden hair fluttered in the wind. A lightning tribulation that had never been seen before. After Lu Mabai said that, he placed his hand on Meng Kuan's head. Oh, I forgot to mention that the Lord Go had once fought with those nether prison experts. Those fellows seemed to be chefs too. These were the kitchen tools that belonged to the Realm Lord, a complete set of top-grade immortal tools. Boom. Boom. Of course, after suffering once, Realm Lord Dit would definitely not suffer a second time. Boom. Rumble. You want the Qilin chef's heart? Why don't you go to the sky? Then, the exquisite dog paw soared into the sky. Bu Feng sucked in a deep breath, looking at the sky. Holding the black wok, he wildly smashed it. It seemed like there was a terrifying existence that wanted to drill out from that crack. I don't have the Qilin chef's heart, but I'll beat you until you call me daddy. What kind of dish was that? Swish, involved in a dispute? What dispute? The Lord Go said. The exquisite dog paw was as terrifying as ever. Meng Kuan's mouth trembled. What kind of dish was that? Immortal tools floated around Realm Lord Dit's body. A loud sound rang out. However, Feng Guanzhong, who was below, had yet to open his mouth. The battle there had reached its climax. Bu Feng kid, looks like you're involved in a dispute. If you want to escape, you have to break the situation. Crazily chewing, with a gulp, he swallowed everything into his stomach. A gigantic black wok smashed down from the sky. The Lord Go glanced at the white tiger heaven stove above Bu Feng's head, slightly arching his brows. However, he didn't ask too much. You guys are very lucky to see the nether prison's dark cuisine that I cooked. Originally, I prepared it for Owner Bu, but since it's like this, I'll let you guys try it first. After eating it, refine it well, and your wounds will be healed. This is a dish cooked with the meat of an 8-star beast emperor, so its healing effect should be pretty good. Most importantly, what shocked them was the dish that Lu Mabai had cooked. Opening his mouth, black energy seemed to spurt out. Immortal energy materialization, the skill of a Qilin chef. Bu Feng honestly shook his head. The Lord Go's magnetic voice rang out. The dog paw and the black palm collided. His red eyes stared at Realm Lord Dit, his eyes filled with deep unwillingness. In just a moment, Feng Guanzhong's wounded appearance recovered, and his figure changed again. Smiling faintly, he reached out his hand. With an incomparably terrifying roar and thick nether energy, however, in the next instant, his dog eyes indifferently looked at the void, snorting. There, a huge black hand suddenly slapped down from the torn void. In the distance, Feng Guanzhong had turned into a monster. His skin was black, and his hair was white. His red eyes gave people a sinister feeling. I must stop him. This time, he wasn't going to let Feng Guanzhong escape. Waiting until the crack disappeared, he turned his head to look at Bu Feng. Bu Feng froze. Boom. He turned around, wanting to break through the blood-colored array to escape. In the distance, where the heaven tree was swaying, an earth-shattering explosion occurred. Crushed stones rolled. Lu Mabai slowly walked over. A pitch-black lightning tribulation? How is this possible? They were not unfamiliar with this scene. However, Feng Guanzhong did not choose to explain to them. They had lost this chef's challenge. I've said it before. The game of cat and mouse is over. Boom! Lord Go's dog eyes were still indifferent. Feng Guanzhong's eyes shrank. After the demonization, Feng Guanzhang's fighting power had increased a lot. Lord Go's dog mouth twitched as he said. A steaming hot dish appeared on Feng Guanzhang's pitch-black palm. It exploded from the impact. A great battle broke out in an instant. The two of them fought with their bodies, their fists hitting each other. City Lord Mengqi looked at Realm Lord Dit, the corner of her mouth twitching. Why did she feel a little strange? Realm Lord Dit said coldly. A kitchen knife dashed around his body. Lord Go yawned, his dog eyes drowsy as he looked at Bufang. Nether prison is really vast, and the forces inside are complicated. This time, the ones who want to mess with the Heaven Chief realm should be the people from the dark Nether cooking realm. The exquisite dog paw soared into the sky. Instantly, an earth-shaking explosion occurred. There was no dense immortal energy, no dazzling light. It was the first time they saw a dish with black nether energy twirling around it. The crack shook. A moment later, the black thunderclouds descended. Feng Guanzhang, who was on the ground, instantly stopped breathing. Feng Guanzhang dashed towards Realm Lord Dit. Suddenly, after each collision, he was smashed to the ground, causing the ground to shatter and explode. How could the Heaven Chief cook a dish with black energy twirling around it? High-grade Qilin chef. Just one step away. Damn it. Immortal energy twirled around it, showing that this dish's grade was extremely high. Boom. Boom. Realm Lord Dit's eyes shrank. Stepping on the void, he hurried to catch up, turning into a jet of light as he sped away. The black palm was smashed into pieces. Realm Lord Dit was bewildered. This kind of gloominess was deep in his bones. The surrounding void was constantly shattered by the two people's attacks. It seemed like he was enraged. An explosion rang out. Realm Lord Dit narrowed his eyes. Retrieving his immortal tool set, he stared at the ruins below. A layer of ripples spread out, instantly filling the entire space of the Heaven Tree. Almost everyone could feel it. Is the Nether prison really going to make a move on the Heaven Chief realm? It has already seeped into the space of the Heaven Tree. Realm Lord Dit's figure suddenly disappeared from his spot. The intent of the heart of cooking path in Meng Kuan's body seemed to turn into a substance, pouring into Lu Mobai's body. The blood-colored gem couldn't bear the pressure. It was covered in cracks, and in the end it shattered. The dish that this black-cloaked man, Lu Mobai, had actually triggered the pitch-black lightning punishment. That time, Realm Lord Dit was careless, and he almost fell into this Feng Guanzhang's trap. That immortal energy condensed, turning into blooming flowers around the dish. From that crack, he took out a bowl of steaming hot dish. However, just as he turned around, he was entangled by the blood-colored array. It turned into blood-colored fragments, scattering on the ground. Moreover, he couldn't bear the price of suffering a loss. Feng Guanzhang was deeply smashed into the ground. The two collided in the void, producing a terrifying explosion and rumbling sound. After all, he was the Realm Lord of the Heaven Chief realm. That dish is strange. Realm Lord Dit furrowed his brows. Could it be that the plan has begun? It shouldn't be. I haven't gathered the heart of a Qilin chef yet. The dishes in the hands of Shui Yao and the other two exploded. It was as though there was a black lightning bolt striking down from the sky. Shui Yao, Meng Kuan, and Feng Xian looked at the pitch-black lightning in the sky in disbelief. The dispute between the Nether prison and the Heaven Chief realm. Do you know who wanted to come from the other side? Realm Lord Dit furrowed his brows, feeling a little suspicious. There was only pitch-black nether energy, as well as an aura that made people feel pressured. There was a hint of anger in his eyes. Realm Lord Dit didn't know what Feng Guanzhang wanted to do, but that black lightning gave him a feeling that it wasn't something good. The wind howled, blowing the black fur on Lord Go's body, constantly fluttering. Lord Go appeared with his enchanting cat-like step. Feng Guanzhang's eyes shrank, as though he was a little suspicious. Realm Lord Dit also showed his true power. These immortal tools were entwined in the tangible immortal energy, emitting a dazzling radiance. Chapter 1080. The massive explosion stunned everyone in the space of the heaven tree. Everyone widened their eyes in shock as they looked at the hole in the distant sky. From that hole, monstrous nether energy gushed out unceasingly. The space of the heaven tree was smashed, creating a big hole. In every corner of the space of the heaven tree, the heaven chief, whose heart of cooking path had been absorbed by the black-robed Lu-Mabai, were dumbstruck. Their bodies shivered unceasingly. They felt as though the end of the world had come. Their hearts, which were originally in despair, became even more desperate. They all knelt on the ground. Lu-Mabai loosened his hand. Shui Yao's hair was disheveled, her eyes lifeless as she fell to the ground. Her body was so soft, without any strength. The heart of cooking path, that she had painstakingly condensed, was absorbed by Lu-Mabai just like that. To anyone, this was a huge blow. Although they could condense the heart of cooking path again, it would be much more difficult than the first time. Most importantly, they might not be able to reach the third-grade Qilin chef's level in their lifetime. Not far from them, Meng Kuan and Feng Xian also had lifeless eyes, their faces filled with despair. All of them had suffered the same fate. Raising his hand, Lu-Mabai's face, which was full of blood-red lines, showed a satisfied look. Taking a deep breath, he felt his heart beating hard. Instantly, the corners of his mouth rose into a smile. Not bad. This feeling is really intoxicating. Lu-Mabai slowly opened his eyes, turning his head to look at the big hole in the sky. His eyes slightly narrowed. Instantly, his face showed a look of regret. What a pity! Did I take action first? Then I won't have the chance to enjoy Owner Bu's heart of cooking path. Lu-Mabai rubbed his pale white hair, pulling up his hood to cover his head. Then, without looking at Shui Yao and the other two who were in despair, he took big steps, walking towards the big hole. There, a blood-red knife energy emerged, cutting off the heaven tree. What's going on? Bu Feng's eyes narrowed. Looking at the heaven tree that had been chopped off, he gasped. The heaven tree represented the will of the heavenly path in the heaven tree space, yet it had been severed with a single slash. They were going to destroy the entire heaven chief realm. It should be the experts of the dark nether cooking realm, Lord Go yawned. Why did they cut down the heaven tree? Bu Feng asked, confused. This is a serious question. Lord Go rolled his eyes. Then, he looked at the big hole and said, maybe it's because of the seed of the heaven tree. Actually, the heaven tree of the heaven chief realm has begun to decline. When the heaven chief realm was at its peak, it had produced hundreds of Qilin chefs. But now the entire heaven chief realm has only 5 Qilin chefs. Oh, maybe none now. The people of the dark nether cooking realm must have taken a fancy to the seed of the heaven tree. If they can take the seed of the heaven tree and plant it in nether prison, the people of the dark nether cooking realm should be able to cultivate many powerful Qilin chefs. The seed of the heaven tree? Bu Feng was a little bewildered. Then, he remembered the temporary task that the system had given him. It wanted him to enter the space of the heaven tree to get the seed of the heaven tree. And now, this task seemed to be the goal of the dark nether cooking realm. He knew that the task that the system had given him couldn't be that simple. Let's go and see. We can't let the seed of the heaven tree fall into the hands of those nether prison people. Otherwise, the entire heaven chief realm will be plunged into misery and suffering. People will have no way to live, Lord Go said. Then, he twisted his waist and walked toward the place where the heaven tree was cut off. Bu Feng didn't say anything. Even if it was just to watch the fun, he had to go. Moreover, his goal was to get the seed of the heaven tree. Buzz, the void rippled. Xiaopi, whose entire body looked like it was made of gold, appeared. This little fellow had been sleeping in the heaven and earth farmland for a long time, and his strength had improved a lot. Xiaobai had restored his normal appearance, standing on Xiaopi's back. Bu Feng took a step forward, landing on Xiaopi's back. Xiaopi's straight, compound eyes rolled. A moment later, the void around him seemed to ripple. Then, he turned into a jet of golden light, shooting into the distance. Lord Go looked at the jet of golden light that swept past him, slightly bewildered. Xiaopi's extreme speed had startled him a little. After overtaking Lord Go, Xiaopi turned his head, squeaking as if he was a little proud. The dog's mouth twitched. Lord Go twisted his butt, striding with his cat-like steps. A moment later, he caught up with Xiaopi and surpassed him. You want to race with Lord Go? Really naughty. Lord Go strode with his cat-like steps, snorting. Explosions rumbled, echoing in the entire space of the Heaven Tree. Realm Lord Dit, City Lord Mingqi, and the Zhou Lords were dumbfounded, looking at the giant, towering Heaven Tree, which had been cut in half by the blood-red blade energy. The three of them couldn't help but shiver. No matter how frivolous Realm Lord Di Tai was, at this moment, his body shivered. It all happened too suddenly. He suddenly realized that he wasn't prepared at all. Or rather, he didn't even have time to react. He saw a giant hole in the space of the Heaven Tree. Suddenly, a jet of blade energy slashed down from the hole. With just one blade, the Heaven Tree was cut into two halves. The palace of the Heaven Tree under the Heaven Tree collapsed. Feng Guanzhong did this? Realm Lord Dit's voice rose an octave. He was incomparably shocked, dumbstruck. City Lord Mingqi and the Zhou Lords shook their heads. They didn't know. They didn't know either. Right now, they were also very confused. Rumble. A loud explosion reverberated. The Heaven Tree fell to the ground. Its branches and leaves shook, making rustling sounds. It was as if the Heaven Tree was silently whimpering. Realm Lord Dit suddenly came back to his senses. Without hesitation, he burst out with his maximum speed, dashing toward the Heaven Tree. In the ruins of the palace, Feng Guanzhong was facing his face and laughing. His scarlet eyes were filled with excitement. Feng Guanzhong, you traitor! Do you know what you're doing? Realm Lord Dit was so angry that his hair was about to stand up. The illusionary void constantly shattered. His figure appeared in front of Feng Guanzhong in a blink of an eye. Raising the black wok, he fiercely smashed it, forcefully hitting Feng Guanzhong's head. Instantly, Feng Guanzhong was like a kite with a broken string. He was smashed away, falling far away. However, Feng Guanzhong crawled up from the ground, his face still filled with excitement. It's useless. My time is about to come. Feng Guanzhong spread his arms, laughing. The Heaven Tree has already started to decline. It can't train any Qilin chefs anymore. If it falls behind, it will be eliminated. The Heaven Tree should have been eliminated long ago. Feng Guanzhong's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Realm Lord Dit, roaring. In the sky, the huge hole rumbled, as if there were black thunder clouds rolling. Black lightning streaked across the illusionary void. Eliminated or not, it's none of your business. Realm Lord Dit's anger surged. Taking a step, he appeared in front of Feng Guanzhong. A fist smashed out. Feng Guanzhong raised his hands to block. However, Realm Lord Dit's fist broke both of his arms, smashing them into the ground. However, this fist was not satisfying enough. Realm Lord Dit's fist condensed true energy, and the illusionary void seemed to be faintly collapsing. Fist after fist smashed down. Instantly, the ground unceasingly cracked. Feng Guanzhong was smashed like a dead dog, vomiting blood. In the next instant, Realm Lord Dit did not hesitate. With a step, he rushed out, walking towards the center where the Heaven Tree was cut. There was a dazzling golden light that rushed to the sky. Seed. Realm Lord Dit's eyes had a solemn look. Although the Heaven Tree was cut, as long as the Heaven Tree seed was preserved, the Heaven Chief Realm could once again cultivate the towering Heaven Tree. The Heaven Tree was the Heaven Chief Realm's belief and the manifestation of the will of the Great Path. Realm Lord Dit found it hard to imagine what the Heaven Chief Realm would become without the Heaven Tree. However, just as Realm Lord Dit landed around the ruins of the Heaven Tree, looking at the 3 Heaven Tree seeds that floated out of the Heaven Tree, his breathing became heavy. However, just as Realm Lord Dit was about to reach out his hand to grab those seeds, a pitch-black bolt of lightning suddenly shot down from the sky. A loud explosion. The sky seemed like it was about to be torn apart. Realm Lord Dit was shocked. He felt a strong sense of danger. Then, his figure moved, appearing in the distance. At his original position, the black lightning scattered. A figure appeared. That figure was wrapped in a long black robe. On the robe, there was a blood-colored skull pattern, and on the arm, there was a chef symbol. He slowly straightened his body, and his grayish-white hair fluttered in the wind. There wasn't the slightest expression on his ice-cold face as his indifferent gaze swept over the celestial tree seed. Ripples appeared in his eyes that were as calm as an ancient well. Sacred grade immortal ingredient? That person said indifferently. A moment later, he reached out his hand, intending to grab the 3 seeds of the Heaven Tree. However, before he could reach out his hand, Realm Lord Dit appeared in front of him. Boom! Realm Lord Dit punched out. The void seemed to be on the verge of collapsing, but this fist was caught by that person with a single hand. The declining Heaven Chief Realm actually has a high-grade Qilin chef? That person looked at Realm Lord Dit, his eyes slightly serious. The smell of the high-grade Qilin chef's heart on your body really makes people drool. His eyes rolled, falling on Realm Lord Dit's face, his face expressionless. Drool? If you have the guts, bite me. Realm Lord Dit bellowed. His fist spun, and his foot aimed at that person's head. Wherever his foot passed, the void shattered. With a thud, that person raised his hand without batting an eyelid, blocking Realm Lord Dit's foot. Not bad. You've actually reached the half-step sacred realm. In the Heaven Chief realm, you're qualified to be the Lord. That person said indifferently. Boom. A loud explosion rang out. The 2 of them retreated, landing in the distance. I'm the Realm Lord of the Heaven Chief realm. You tell me, can I be the Lord? Realm Lord Dit's face was solemn. That person straightened his body, the corners of his mouth twitching. In the distance, Feng Guanzhong crawled up from the ruins, his eyes filled with desire. Sir, I've completed the task. Please fulfill your promise. That person slightly turned his head, looking at Feng Guanzhong, who was in a mess. Very good. The Dark Nether Cooking Realm thanks you for your efforts. The future leader of the Heaven Chief realm is you. That person said casually. Feng Guanzhong was incomparably excited. Boom, boom, boom. Black lightning boomed unceasingly. A moment later, the black lightning dispersed. 2 figures instantly appeared by the black-cloaked person. Another 2 figures wrapped in black robes appeared. On their shoulders, there was also a chef symbol. As soon as the 2 of them appeared, the terrifying pressure made Realm Lord Dit suck in a breath of cold air. The cultivation base of these 3 people was not weaker than Realm Lord Dit. However, the 3 of them did not look at Realm Lord Dit. Instead, their gazes shifted, falling on the void in the distance. There was a streak of golden light speeding over from that direction. And an enchanting black dog was walking like a cat. The 3 of them ignored the golden light, but the appearance of the black dog caused their pupils to shrink. They exchanged a look with each other as shock surfaced on their faces. That's that dog from Earth Prison? Chapter 1081. Enchanting cat-like steps, swaying his butt. No void flower bloomed, no spiritual energy bloomed. He just walked over in a low-key manner. A black dog came from the void with cat-like step. This black dog, with indifferent eyes, yawned, as if he didn't care about anything. Beside Lord Go, Mantis Shrimp, which looked like it was made of gold, pierced through the void, carrying Bufang and Xiao Bai flying over. Below, everyone's eyes couldn't help but be attracted. Of course, they saw Lord Go, as well as Mantis Shrimp and Bufang beside Lord Go. The three black-robed experts from Nether Prison narrowed their eyes, looking straight at Lord Go. Their ash-gray hair fluttered in the air, and their faces were somewhat solemn. The leader, who was also the expert who had appeared first, frowned. "This dog is really everywhere," that expert said. In the next moment, he gently exhaled, and his eyes became even more serious. "However, even if this dog is here, we can't let go of the saint-grade immortal ingredient. Take the heaven tree seed." The expert gave the order. The two black-robed men beside him instantly attacked. Their feet stepped on the ground, and their figures disappeared from where they were as if they had teleported. When they appeared again, they were already near the ruins of the heaven tree, in front of the 3 heaven tree seeds that were emitting a dazzling golden light. Even in Nether Prison, a saint-grade immortal ingredient was a rare ingredient. Of course, they wouldn't easily give up such a treasure. Moreover, this was the Heaven Chief Realm's heaven tree seed, which had an extraordinary significance. It even contained the will of the Great Path of the Heaven Chief Realm. With the help of the will of the Great Path, this heaven tree seed was a rare top-grade immortal ingredient, even among the saint-grade immortal ingredients. "Want to covet my Heaven Chief Realm's heaven tree seed? You have to get past me first," Realm Lord Dit roared. His figure suddenly appeared in front of the two experts. His long robe fluttered, and his golden hair flowed in all directions. He raised his hands and fiercely swung his palms at the two people. Boom boom! The two of them exchanged blows with Realm Lord Dit. Their figures flipped in the air, and then they landed beside the first black-robed man. Realm Master Dit's hands were trembling violently, and there was a pitch-black nether aura wrapped around them like maggots. "Lord Emotio, this guy's cultivation is not weak, we need some time." The two black faction members landed beside the first black-robed man and spoke with cold expressions. Emotio, who was the first gray-haired man, glanced at the two of them indifferently. "He's just a half-step saint from the Heaven Chief Realm. How much time does he need? End the battle quickly. That dog. I'll keep it busy," Emotio said coldly. His tone was stern. The hearts of the two black-robed men shivered, and they nodded. Boom! In a blink of an eye, the two of them once again shot out. Realm Lord Dit was already fully armed, and his immortal tool set floated beside him. "Let me help the two lords." Feng Guanzhong's eyes widened, and the corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a crazed look. Boom! The ground under his feet also exploded. He sped towards Realm Lord Dit. Being attacked by 3 people at the same time, Realm Lord Dit also felt a lot of pressure. Feng Guanzhong, that weak chicken, was still okay. The main thing was that the two experts from the Nether Prison had a similar cultivation and aura as him, giving him a lot of pressure. Nether Prison indeed lived up to its name. The moment they attacked, it was 2 half-step Saint Realm experts. Realm Lord Dit's cultivation had gone through so many years of cultivation, and with the countless resources of the Heaven Tree, he had only reached half-step Saint Realm. Of course, the main reason was that the Heaven Tree had decayed. It should be known that when the Heaven Tree was flourishing, the Heaven Chief Realm was at its strongest. There were hundreds of Qilin Chef experts, many Saint Realm experts, and countless half-step Saint Realm experts. At that time, even the Nether Prison did not dare to easily provoke the Heaven Chief Realm. Now that the Heaven Tree had decayed, the Nether Prison actually revealed its ferocious claws, wanting to snatch away the Heaven Tree's seeds. This was the lifeblood of the Heaven Chief Realm. Even if Realm Lord Dit had to sacrifice his life, he had to stop them. Boom! A terrifying explosion rang out. Realm Lord Dit and the 3 of them fought. The might of the battle between half-step Sage Realm experts was extremely terrifying. Energy ripples spread out in circles. It caused thousands of explosions. The entire ruins of the Heaven Tree Palace had a layer shaved off, and the rubble turned into powder. Lord Go, Bufang, and the others landed. They landed in the distance. Looking at the great battle on the ruins of the Heaven Tree Palace, Bufang's eyes were a little strange. Through everything, he saw the 3 dazzling golden seeds floating above the ruins of the heaven tree. The terrifying energy contained in the seeds made people's hearts palpitate and hope. Are those the seeds of the heaven tree? They contain the power of the entire heaven chief realm, Bufang muttered. Looking at the seeds, his eyes suddenly became a little fervent. If he could obtain these seeds, then he could complete the system's temporary task and obtain the ability to fuse with immortal flames. That way, the white tiger's heaven-illuminating flame could fuse with more immortal flames. Its power would be even more terrifying. The illusionary void twisted and a black robe fluttered. Emo Xiu's figure suddenly appeared in front of Lord Go, his hands crossed in front of his chest. His grayish-white hair fluttered in the air, and on the arm of his black robe there was a chef symbol. Earth Prison Dog. You also want to meddle in the affairs of the Heaven Chief Realm? Emo Xiu asked casually. Lord Go lazily glanced at Emo Xiu. You should be from the Dark Nether Cooking Realm, right? The Dark Nether Cooking Realm's reputation in Nether Prison is pretty good. I am indeed from the Dark Nether Cooking Realm. Since you know my identity, give me some face and don't interfere in this matter. Emo Xiu's face slightly softened as he said. Dark Nether Cooking Realm. Lord Go clicked his tongue, glancing at Emo Xiu. A moment later, he gently waved his exquisite dog paw at Emo Xiu. Boom, boom. Terrifying nether energy gathered, turning into an energy dog paw that covered the sky. That energy dog paw slapped towards Emo Xiu, not bothering with reason at all. Emo Xiu's face changed. Nether energy was released from his body, soaring up into the sky. Both his fists struck, directly hitting that dog paw. Boom, boom. A series of loud explosions rang out. A moment later, Emo Xiu was slapped into the ground. The ground cracked, collapsing unceasingly. The ground seemed to shake. Smoke and dust scattered, and the dog paw disappeared. Only the shadow of a huge dog paw was left on the ground. I'm going to beat your Nether Prison people. I don't care if you're from the Dark Nether Cooking Realm or someone else. Lord Go's mouth twitched, grunting. Bufang looked at the powerful Lord Go, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. This dog is a little overbearing. Boom. Crushed stones scattered everywhere. In the ruins, Emo Xiu, who cut a sorry figure, floated in the air. His eyes were filled with fear. That dog's cultivation base seemed to have become stronger after so many years. It was reasonable for him to become stronger. However, at their level, it was really terrifying that he could still become stronger. You really want to start a war with my Nether Prison's Dark Nether Cooking Realm? This price. Emo Xiu's face was unsightly as he spoke. However, he hadn't finished his words. Lord Dog faced the sky and barked. Then, his figure disappeared from his original spot. A moment later, he reappeared in front of Emo Xiu. Emo Xiu was a little startled. Then, a dog paw rapidly enlarged in front of him. Boom. A paw patted his body. Instantly, Emo Xiu's figure was sent flying backward, crashing into the ruins of the Heaven Tree Palace. Crushed stones scattered everywhere. It made the movements of the people who were fighting instantly stop. Smoke and dust billowed, and the clamor stopped. Realm Lord Dit panted heavily. His eyes widened in disbelief as he looked at Emo Xiu, who was sent flying by a paw. Mangy dog, your cultivation base has become stronger again. Lord Go slowly walked with his enchanting cat-like steps, hovering in the air. Hearing Realm Lord Dit's words, he immediately rolled his eyes. Not bad, my injuries have recovered a little. Of course, the Heaven Tree's will of the Great Path is also very useful. Realm Lord Dit almost vomited blood when he heard that. That mangy dog had bitten the will of the Great Path. That bite was all King essence. This mangy dog could be so strong, and it must be related to the will of the Great Path. Emo Xiu slowly straightened his body from the ruins, standing up. You dog. You've gone too far. Do you really think that no one in Nether Prison can subdue you? Don't forget how you had to run away from Nether Prison in such a sorry state. Emo-shio patted the long black robe on his body, coldly staring at Lord Go. Boom. However, as soon as his words fell, another sonic boom rang out. Lord Go's figure once again appeared in front of him, a paw pounding on his head. Boom. Emo-shio tried to resist, but how could he? Once again, he was sent flying. He was completely being abused. Lord Go's speed was extremely fast, as if he had turned into a jet of black light, constantly shuttling in the void. Every time he shuttled, Emo-shio would be blasted away. A loud boom rang out. Another layer of the ruins of the Heaven Tree Palace was shaved off. Smoke and dust surged. Realm Lord Dit and the others gawked and dropped their jaws. Feng Guanzhong swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He had actually wanted to kill such a dog. How naive was that? This Lord Go was too monstrous. Bufang stood on Xiaopi's back, watching with interest. This was Lord Dog's style. He would crush them without reason. However, he still had to think of a way to get that Heaven Tree seed. Bufang rubbed his chin, pondering. In the distance, Emo-shio staggered to his feet, and his complexion looked very ugly. Each of that dog's paws was extremely powerful and terrifying. It had injured his body severely, which made his heart surge with anger. Then, wait for my dark Nether Cooking Nation's endless revenge, Emo-shio said coldly. Suddenly, his eyes shrank. That was because the dog was descending from the sky, and its exquisite dog paw kept growing bigger and bigger. In the end, it landed on his body and slammed him into the ground. Smoke and dust surged. A black dog walked out of the ruins with enchanting cat-like step. Lord Dog extended his paw and licked it. Then, he cast a sidelong glance at the ruins. All right, I feel much better now. Lord Go is a reasonable dog. Let's sit down and discuss the distribution of the Heaven Tree seed. Boom! The ground cracked. Emo-shio, whose entire body was burning with black flames, almost vomited blood when he heard Lord Go's words. You dog! Shameless! He had beaten him up and then said, how could there be such a thing? However, Lord Go didn't care about him. The Dark Nether Cooking Nation and the Heaven Chief Realm have one thing in common, which is to train chef. If that's the case, let's use your way to solve it. We'll use cooking skills to decide the distribution of the Heaven Tree seed. What do you think? Why should we listen to you? The sacred grade immortal ingredient belongs to our Dark Nether Cooking Nation. This is a done deal, Emo-shio said coldly. Then, do you want to try a few more paws? Lord Go raised his exquisite paw, glancing at Emo-shio. With just you, I'm afraid Lord Go will beat you to death. Emo-shio froze. The nether energy around him surged. This dog was as shameless as ever. Swish, swish, swish. The two black-cloaked people returned to Emo-shio's side. Feng Guanzhong also appeared next to Emo-shio, his face filled with excitement. They would use cooking to decide the ownership of the Heaven Tree seed. For the two culinary forces, it was fair. Emo-shio didn't want to agree, but now that he was in the Heaven Chief Realm, he didn't have the protection of the Dark Nether Cooking Nation's army. He couldn't beat this dog. If they really fought, perhaps he would be beaten to death. His heart was aggrieved. He was forced by a dog. However, he also understood that this dog didn't dare to kill him. After all, he was from the Dark Nether Cooking Nation, which was one of the big forces in Nether Prison. This dog didn't dare to cause trouble. However, Emo-shio was very gloomy. His previous beating was for nothing? Did this dog just give him a good beating for free? Sir Emo-shio, don't agree with this dog. Why should our Dark Nether Cooking Realm be afraid of a dog? However, Emo-shio hadn't opened his mouth yet. Feng Guanzhong glared, speaking ferociously. Today, he also considered himself a member of the Dark Nether Cooking Realm. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Emo-shio looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Boom! Feng Guanzhang was bewildered. In the next instant, an enchanting figure of a black dog appeared in front of him, walking with cat-like step. An exquisite dog paw enlarged in front of his eyes, ruthlessly pounding on his head. Feng Guanzhang instantly doubted his life. The Lord Go is talking. Who do you think you are? You dare to interrupt? As the paw fell, the Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice resounded in the void. Chapter 1082. Who do you think you are? You dare to interrupt the Lord Go when he's talking? A dog's paw descended. Feng Guanzhang's face was dumbstruck as he was sent flying. That terrifying dog's paw contained an incomparably terrifying power. That power exploded on his head, causing Feng Guanzhang to howl miserably as he was smashed to the ground. Emo Xiu didn't plan to help. Feng Guanzhang had brought this upon himself. Facing this dog, even Emo Xiu didn't have 100% chance of winning. However, this Feng Guanzhang dared to question him. If he wasn't courting death, then what was? As an expert, he naturally had the dignity of an expert. This Feng Guanzhang was just a puppet in Emo Xiu's hands. If he died, he died. Emo Xiu couldn't offend the Earth Prison Dog for a mere puppet. Moreover, Emo Xiu thought that the Earth Prison Dog's suggestion wasn't bad. It was in line with his thoughts. The Dark Nether Cooking Realm and the Heaven Chief Realm were famous for cultivating chefs. In the Dark Nether Cooking Realm, they cultivated Nether chefs, while in the Heaven Chief Realm, they cultivated Heaven Chief Chef. Since that was the case, choosing to use cooking to decide whether the Heaven Tree would stay or not was the best way. Feng Guanzhang crawled up from the ruins, his head covered in blood. His eyes had turned scarlet. He roared furiously at Lord Dog, who was hovering in the air. This stinky dog! When had he, the dog meat grandmaster, ever suffered such humiliation? He was being bullied by a dog. However, his roar hadn't ended yet. The Lord Go's exquisite paw slapped again. Thousands of nether energy gathered, turning into a claw that covered the sky. The paw slapped down, causing the entire ground to explode. Instantly, a loud bang resounded. A dog's paw print appeared on the ground. The ground caved in deeply, and crushed stones flew everywhere. Feng Guanzhang was slapped into the ground one more time. Noisy, the Lord Go rolled his eyes, retracting his exquisite paw in the void. In the distance, City Lord Mengqi and the Zhou Lords watched as the Lord Go ruthlessly beat Feng Guanzhang. Their eyes revealed delight. Awesome! Feng Guanzhang, this bastard, deserves a good beating. Zhou Lord's face was pale, but his eyes were filled with excitement. City Lord Mengqi also clenched her fists, a look of delight appearing in her eyes. Feng Guanzhang, this traitor, should be treated like this. If it were them, they wouldn't have the slightest bit of mercy. Sector Master Dit rubbed his fists and couldn't help but want to beat Feng Guanzhang up. Only fists could teach this annoying thing how to be a proper person. Bufang crossed his arms as he stood on Xiaopi's back. His gaze was indifferent as he watched Feng Guanzhang get beaten up. He was more concerned about what the Lord Go had just said. Using cooking to decide the fate of the seed of the Heaven Tree? It was a good idea. Your idea isn't impossible. Since it's like this, I can compete with the Realm Lord of the Heaven Chief Realm in cooking skills. We will have a chef's challenge, and the winner will decide the ownership of the seed of the Heaven Tree. How about it? Emo Xiu saw that the Lord Go had finished beating Feng Guanzhang, then slowly opened his mouth and said, comparing cooking skills, he, Emo Xiu, wasn't weak at all. In the Dark Nether Cooking Realm, he, Emo Xiu, was also one of the top Qilin chef. Moreover, he was a Qilin chef trained in the Nether Prison. Compared to the Qilin chefs trained in the declining Heaven Chief Realm, he was naturally much stronger. Hence, this chef's challenge was beneficial to him. He couldn't wait to have a chef's challenge. Sector Master Dit also knew what Emo Xiu was thinking. His eyes narrowed as he felt a huge pressure on his body. Indeed, as a Qilin chef, The pressure that Emoshio brought him was really huge. The chefs in the dark nether cooking realm of the nether prison and the heaven chief realm were similar. The nether chefs corresponded to the heaven chief realm, and they were also divided into 3 grades. Above the 3rd grade were Chilan chef. However, the overall level of the chefs in the dark nether cooking realm was a little stronger than the heaven chief realm. This was because of the resources. Just like the difference between the 1st layer of the heaven chief realm and the 5th floor of the heaven chief realm, it was also because of the difference in resources. Resources determined the talent's level and vision. For example, Lu Yi's innate talent was the best in the entire heaven chief realm because he grew up in the 5th floor of the heaven chief realm, so he had enough heavenly paths will to irrigate him. No. It's not just a competition between you and the exhibitionist. This isn't fair. The Lord Go said. Emoshio suddenly furrowed his brows. What medicine did this mangy dog have in his gourd? Then, what do you want? If it wasn't because he was afraid of this dog's strength, Emoshio would have already taken action to snatch this heaven tree seed. He wouldn't have waited until now. Emoshio's heart was also suppressing a ball of fire. No matter what, it's the heaven tree seed. It's related to the heaven chief realm's affairs. How can we use a chef's challenge to decide who it belongs to? Since both of you train chefs, you should send representatives from different levels to have a chef's challenge, the Lord Go said. Representatives from different levels? Emoshio and Realm Lord Dit were a little surprised. The Heaven Chief Nether Chef will send representatives, low-grade Chilan Chef and high-grade Chilan Chef. Altogether, there will be 3 matches. 2 wins out of 3. What do you think? The Lord Go's dog mouth twitched. It seemed he was very interested in arranging such a thing. Don't blame the Lord Go for not giving you a chance. 3 chefs' challenges? Emoshio narrowed his eyes. His gray hair fluttered in the wind, making his face look even colder. Good. I promise you. We'll do as you say. Emoshio said. I have no objection. When it comes to cooking, I, Dit, have never been afraid of anyone. Realm Lord Dit flipped his golden hair, full of confidence. Alright, then you guys discuss and send your representatives. Alright. The Heaven Chief and the Nether Chef can only send a first-grade chef, the Lord Go said. Realm Lord Dit and Emoshio were bewildered. They didn't expect such a request. However, the Immortal Chef and the first-grade Nether Chef were the foundation of the Heaven Chief and the Nether Chef, so they were more representative. It wasn't impossible. However, it had become a difficult decision to make. Realm Lord Dit walked to City Lord Mengqi and the Zhou Lords. The 3 Chilan chefs gathered together to discuss the order of their representative. Actually, they didn't have a choice. The low-grade Chilan chef could only be Mengqi. No matter what, the Zhou Lords was injured, so it was hard for him to perform. As for the high-grade Chilan chef, there was only Realm Lord Dit in the entire Heaven Chief realm. Now, the problem was, who should the Immortal Chef send? Of course, the best choice was Bufang, who had won the first place in the Heaven Chief competition. However, they didn't have much confidence in Bufang. No matter what, the chef's challenge this time was related to the life and death of the Heaven Chief realm. On the other side, the representatives of the Dark Nether Cooking realm also began to discuss. They were also discussing the order of the Nether Chef. They were a little hesitant about the Nether Chef's choice. We should go back to the Dark Nether Cooking realm and find those talented Nether Chefs. With those talented Nether Chefs, we can definitely crush those trash from the Heaven Chief realm. A black-cloaked man said. Emoshio's eyes flashed. He seemed a little moved. However, if they went back to Nether Prison to find those talented Nether Chefs, it would take a long time. Moreover, Emoshio was confident that they didn't need those talented Nether Chef. If the first-grade Nether Chef of their Dark Nether Cooking realm were in the Heaven Chief realm, they could absolutely crush the second-grade Heaven Chief of the Heaven Chief realm. To deal with those small trash like the Immortal Chef, they didn't need to waste any effort. I can represent the Dark Nether Cooking realm, a chuckle resounded in the void. In the next moment, a figure slowly walked over from the void in the distance. Emo Shio and the others turned to look. Lu Mabai appeared in front of Emo Shio and the others. He lifted his hood, revealing his blood-red head, chuckling. You! Emo Shio narrowed his eyes. He could feel the aura of a nether chef from Lu Mabai's body. You got the inheritance of the nether prison's dark nether cooking realm? Emo Shio asked. That's right. That's why I'm happy to represent the dark nether cooking realm in this chef's challenge. If I'm not wrong, the heaven chief they sent should be my old rival. Lu Mabai said. Oh, old rival? Are you confident? Emo Shio sensed the inheritance on Lu Mabai. The more he sensed, the more surprised he was. The 9 revolution heart of cooking path? Emo Shio exclaimed in surprise. Although this 9 revolution heart of cooking path was a little complicated and crude, it was indeed the 9 revolution heart of cooking path. It was a powerful technique of the dark nether cooking realm to condense the heart of cooking path. Once the heart of cooking path appeared, it was enough to make the opponent unable to even hold the knife. This fellow in front of them wasn't weaker than the monstrous geniuses of their nether cooking realm. Interesting. All right. It's you then. Emo Shio slapped the table and made up his mind. Since there was a monstrous genius, why not? On the other side, after listening to the Lord Go's arrangement, Bufang sank into contemplation, his eyes deep. Suddenly, the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. The Lord Go was fighting for a chance for him. He wanted to get the seed of the heaven tree. With his strength, of course, he couldn't convince the others. However, if he could help the Heaven Chief Realm gain the Heaven Chief's qualification, he would have enough reason to ask Realm Lord Dit for a seed. The Lord Go had arranged everything perfectly. The Lord Go was really considerate. In the distance, City Lord Mengqi and the others glanced at him from time to time. Apparently, they weren't sure if Bufang would agree to help them in this chef's challenge or not. All of a sudden, Realm Lord Dit's eyes shrank, because Bufang was stepping on Shrimpy's back, which looked like it was made of gold, piercing through the void and appearing next to them. Little Boo-Boo, what do you think? Realm Lord Dit looked at Bufang with hope in his eyes. They thought that Bufang would refuse. According to Owner Boo's cold character, there was a big possibility that he would refuse. However, Bufang's decision was beyond their expectation. He didn't hesitate and agreed to participate. Whether it was for the seed of the Heaven Tree or for the entire Heaven Chief realm, Bufang would agree to participate. The Heaven Tree was the pillar and faith of the Heaven Chief realm. Once it collapsed, Bufang knew that it meant the end of the Heaven Chief realm had come. The 5th layer of the Heaven Chief realm could be completely turned into ruins. The entire Heaven Chief realm would be destroyed in a day. This was what Bufang didn't want to see. Good kid, you've got guts. Beat those dark nether cooking trashes for this old lady. Zolords paled. He pinched his thumb and middle finger, poking Bufang's shoulder. Bufang arched his brows, glancing at Zolords. After discussing for a while, both sides had decided on their candidate. The dark nether cooking realm had sent a first-grade nether chef, Lu Mabai, a low-grade Qilin chef, Zheng Quangjiu, and a high-grade Qilin chef, Emo Shio. The Heaven Chief realm had sent an immortal chef, Bufang, a low-grade Qilin chef, Mengqi, and a high-grade Qilin chef, Dit. The seed of the Heaven Tree burst out a dazzling golden light. The light shot up into the sky as if it wanted to break through the clouds. Emo Shio and the other dark nether chef's auras were extremely powerful. Thick black clouds rolled above their heads, bringing a terrifying pressure. Around the ruins of the Heaven Tree Palace, shadows slowly approached. They were the group of Heaven Chief chefs who had their Qilin chef hearts taken away by Lu Mabai. And now, they had finally arrived at the ruins of the Heaven Tree Palace. As soon as they arrived, they raised their heads and saw the tit-for-tat scene. This scene caused everyone's eyes to shrink involuntarily. They were a little confused, not knowing what was going on. The Lord Go seemed to have become the referee, walking in the air with his enchanting cat-like steps. He hovered in the middle of the two groups. Since we've arranged the contestants, the referee of this chef's challenge will be the Lord Goyond. Bufang was very close to the seed of the heaven tree. He turned his head, looking at the 3 seeds of the heaven tree in the middle of the heaven tree that had been cut in half. His eyes twinkled. For the sake of the seeds of the heaven tree. It seemed he couldn't be Loki anymore. He had to crush his opponents completely. Now the chef's challenge begins. The Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice resounded in the void. A moment later, terrifying auras burst out from the dark nether chef's camp, forcefully suppressing them. Lu Mabai's eyes were bright, blooming with dazzling light. His hair fluttered under the nether energy as he looked at Bufang. His fighting will soared to the sky. The pitch-black knife turned, pointing at Bufang. The corners of his mouth curled, his eyes full of provocation. Chapter 1083. After Lu Yi was defeated by Lu Mabai in the Heaven Chief competition, he was in a daze, as if the sky had collapsed. Entering the space of the heaven tree, he didn't know what to do. He just wandered aimlessly in the space of the heaven tree, his eyes dull. Losing the heart of cooking path, everything he had before turned into a bubble. His talent, his glory, everything was taken away. From a monstrous genius that everyone respected, he had turned into a pile of mud. Sometimes he would complain. Why did he have to meet the great demon and that black-cloaked man? Why did he have to suffer all these disasters that no one could bear? However, the more he thought about it, the more annoyed he became. Because everything that should happen had happened, and he could only bear it. Muddle-headed, he walked in the space of the heaven tree. Even when the will of the great path in the space of the heaven tree spread out twice, he didn't have any mood to comprehend it. He had lost the heart of cooking path. Even if he comprehended the great path, so what? So what if the will of the great path poured into his body? He couldn't condense the heart of cooking path in a short time. But very quickly what he encountered next caused him to be horrified. Shui Yao, Meng Kuan, Feng Xian, and the other geniuses of the Heaven Chief competition were all muddle-headed like him. They all had their heart of cooking path taken away, which made him feel a little strange. And at this time, a loud noise completely woke him up. In his frightened eyes, the gigantic immortal tree was cut in half with a single slash with a cracking sound. It was cut into 2 halves, the heaven tree was broken. This made Lu Yi understand that something big was going to happen in the Heaven Chief realm. When they arrived outside the ruins of the Palace of the Heaven Tree, they saw a group of people confronting each other. Among them was City Lord Mengqi, whom he admired, and the Realm Lord, whom he respected, and the great demon, Bufang, who made him feel very complicated. The atmosphere in the air made him feel a little strange. After a long time, Lu Yi finally figured out the whole story. It turned out that a group of people who called themselves the Dark Nether Cooking Realm wanted to snatch the seed of the Heaven Tree. The Realm Lord and City Lord Mengqi were trying their best to resist them. They wanted to start a chef's challenge, and the winner of the chef's challenge would decide the ownership of the seed of the Heaven Tree. Although Lu Yi was dispirited, he was not stupid. All of a sudden, he understood the importance of this chef's challenge. It was a chef's challenge that would decide the life and death of the Heaven Chief realm. If they lost, the immortal cooking realm would completely decline and be destroyed. A flame suddenly ignited in Lu Yi's heart. Although he was dispirited, he did not wish to see his home destroyed. He struggled to look into the distance, his eyes fixed on the chef's challenge in front of him. The first chef's challenge, City Lord Mengqi, who was wearing a long robe with wisps of immortal energy, was facing the nether prison's dark nether chef, Zheng Quangjiu. They seemed to have a tacit understanding. They surrounded the seed of the Heaven Tree. The group of people separated into 2 groups. The huge ruins of the Palace of the Heaven Tree had become the venue of the chef's challenge. It seemed that there was an invisible fluctuation spreading out. Behind Zheng Guangzhou, a huge phantom emerged. That phantom covered the sky, and in the middle of its head was a blood-red ruby, which emitted a dazzling radiance. The dazzling light made everyone's mind tremble. This is the witness of the Chef's Challenge oath. My Dark Nether Cooking Realm's Chef's Challenge isn't a child's game. Zheng Guangzhou's white hair fluttered. Suddenly, he grabbed the black robe on his body, lifting it up. Swishing sounds rang out. Zheng Guangzhou instantly revealed the clothes under his black robe. A crescent-shaped kitchen knife was hanging on his waist. The knife was dark blue, with pitch-black nether energy winding around it. His fingers shook, and the crescent-shaped kitchen knife spun. Zheng Guangzhou's aura suddenly changed. His eyes turned crimson. Behind him, a curved, evil moon emerged. The Heaven Chief of the Heaven Chief realm? A trash-like existence. I'll let you feel what's called real cooking. Zheng Guangzhou said coldly. A moment later, the kitchen knife moved horizontally, setting off earth-shaking energy wave. City Lord Mengqi furrowed her brows. She felt a little pressured. The pressure emitted from Zheng Guangzhou made her a little restless. However, City Lord Mengqi closed her eyes. After taking a deep breath, she opened them. A resolute look emerged in her eyes. Come. For the Heaven Chief realm, I won't let you win. Buzz, City Lord Mengqi's immortal robe fluttered. Then, she gripped the kitchen knife in her hand tightly as she said with a serious face. The corner of Zheng Guangzhou's mouth twitched. The price of the Chef's Challenge. If you lose, you'll be disqualified from cooking forever. Moreover, you'll have to give everything related to cooking to your opponent, Zheng Guangzhou continued. You Heaven Chief have been living in a greenhouse. How could you know how cruel our Nether Chef's Challenge is? Every Chef's Challenge is a battle of life and death. Zheng Guangzhou said coldly. City Lord Mengqi exhaled deeply, her eyes firm. Come. Lord Go's figure seemed to teleport, appearing between the two of them in the middle of the ruins of the Heaven Tree Palace. Good. The time to brew half a cup of tea is up. Now, Lord Go, I'll announce the theme of your Chef's Challenge. Lord Go lay in the middle of the ruins of the Heaven Tree Palace, wagging his tail. His gentle and magnetic voice echoed. He reached out his paw, licking it. Then, his sharp dog eyes scanned the two of them, saying, The theme of this Chef's Challenge is noodles. Boom. Lord Go's voice faded. Instantly, an invisible wave of energy spread out from the huge shadow in the void. That wave of energy shrouded Mengqi and Zheng Guangzhou. Lord Go gave that shadow a deep look, then disappeared into the ruins of the palace. Buzz, the blood-red gem in the huge shadow, cast a radiance. That radiance was like a ripple, sprinkling on their bodies, covering them. It turned into a magic array, forming a Chef's Challenge arena. The theme of the Chef's Challenge is noodles? On the other side of the magic array, Xiu clasped his hands, revealing a relaxed smile. The theme is noodles. Fortunately, Zheng Guangzhou is the one. His research on noodles is much more profound than mine, another black-cloaked man said with a smile. Another black-robed man said with a smile. Xiu also nodded his head. As a Qilin chef, each of them had their own cultivation direction. After all, the path of cooking was unfathomable. To study each dish thoroughly, it would take a lot of time. Even a Qilin chef could only walk his own path on one dish. And to walk his own path was a Qilin chef. The heart of cooking path of a Qilin chef was the truly terrifying heart of cooking path. Noodles? City Lord Mengqi's face slightly changed. A moment later, her beautiful brows furrowed. Around the ruins, the Heaven Chief stared at the Chef's Challenge between the two Qilin chefs. Even if they were disheartened because their Qilin chef's heart was taken, the Chef's Challenge could still attract their attention. City Lord Mengqi doesn't seem to be good at cooking noodles. City Lord Mengqi used pastries to prove her Qilin chef path. I wonder if noodles are good. Come on, Goddess Mengqi. The surrounding Heaven Chief clenched their fists. They also knew the pressure on City Lord Mengqi's shoulders, so they couldn't help but clench their fists. Lu Yi's eyes stared at the chef's challenge in the arena. This was a chef's challenge that involved the future of the Heaven Chief realm and the future of City Lord Mingqi. He couldn't lose. He didn't want City Lord Mingqi to follow his footstep. Come on, City Lord Mingqi. A hoarse roar came from Lu Yi's mouth. Lu Yi realized that he hadn't spoken for a long time. Bufang looked at Lu Yi in surprise. Lu Mabai, who was playing with a kitchen knife, also glanced at Lu Yi. Lu Mabai snorted disdainfully at his defeated opponent. Seemingly feeling Lu Yi's hoarse cheering, City Lord Mingqi turned her head to look at Lu Yi. Seeing the pain and hope in Lu Yi's eyes, her heart suddenly shivered. Then, her eyes became resolute. I can't lose. Mengqi gritted her teeth. The theme is noodles. Woman, you're going to lose. Zheng Guangzhou laughed. In the next instant, black energy twirled around his hand. Bundles of huge wheat grains shrouded in pitch-black nether energy emerged, floating around his body. This is the demon god blood barley from a corner of the demon god battlefield in Nether Prison. Using this to make noodles, you, woman, will soon feel despair. Swish, Zheng Guangzhou sneered, looking at Mengqi. Then, he reached out his hand, brushing past the demon god blood barley that was twirling with pitch-black nether energy. Swish! The husks of the wheat flew everywhere. Mengqi's face suddenly changed. She suddenly realized that she didn't prepare the ingredients to make noodles. This made her face pale and bloodless in an instant. Zheng Guangzhou and Mo Xiu and the others also seemed to notice Mengqi's embarrassment, and they couldn't help but laugh. She didn't even prepare the ingredient. Then, wouldn't they win this match? Lord Go couldn't help but rub his dog nose. He was a little embarrassed. It seemed that he had thought of a chef's challenge theme that wasn't very good. Realm Lord Dit furrowed his brows. His mind sensed the storage space of his ingredients, and his face became a little unsightly. He, the Realm Lord Dit, rarely prepared the ingredients to make noodles. The surrounding Heaven Chief also seemed to notice City Lord Mengqi's embarrassment, and their faces changed. They hadn't even started, and she was going to lose? The ingredients to make noodles? Bufang furrowed his brows. He did have them. The Heaven and Earth farmland should have the ingredients to make noodles, right? His mind flickered. Bufang entered the Heaven and Earth farmland. The warm wind slowly blew. The Heaven and Earth farmland was very comfortable. Where's Nyo Han-san? Bufang landed in front of the wooden house, asking in a low voice. The sound waves rippled out in circles. Nyo Han-san, who had gained a lot of weight from eating, eagerly ran over. Owner Bu, what brings you here? Nyo Han-san asked curiously. A smile appeared on his face, and the fat on his bull face piled up. Prepare the best wheat in the Heaven and Earth farmland for me, Bufang said. I need it urgently. Nyo Han-san was bewildered. He seemed to hear the urgency in Bufang's voice. The best wheat? Owner Bu, are you sure? Nyo Hansen's voice had a rare hint of excitement. Bufang was a little suspicious, but he didn't suspect anything. He nodded. After Nyo Han-san understood, his figure disappeared. Shortly after, he came back with a big pile of wheat. This is the best wheat in the Heaven and Earth farmland. It's also the wheat that this old bull has carefully bred. There will be a surprise. Nyo Han-san winked at Bufang. However, because of his fat, Bufang didn't see what Nyo Hansen's small eyes were doing. Bufang nodded. He didn't have time to say anything. Taking the wheat, he left the Heaven and Earth farmland. As soon as he returned, Bufang controlled his mental force, throwing a big bundle of wheat to City Lord Mingqi, who was in the array in the distance. City Lord Mingqi was bewildered. She gratefully looked at Bufang, then took the wheat from Bufang. As soon as she touched the big bundle of wheat, Mengqi's face froze. She looked at Bufang in surprise. That look made Bufang feel strange. This wheat, Mengqi sucked in a breath of cold air. She was more grateful to Bufang. She didn't expect that Owner Bu, who was usually so cold, was actually a generous person. With this wheat, she, Mengqi, had the confidence to fight against that Qilin chef from the dark nether cooking realm. Boom! City Lord Mengqi's confidence rose, and her eyes bloomed with light. His aura, which was initially suppressed, suddenly surged. The heart of Cooking Path expanded, its silver radiance dazzling. Her eyes gazed at Zheng Quangjio, who was laughing in the distance. It was hard to say who would win this chef's challenge. The smile on Zheng Quangjio's face gradually disappeared. You want to use the ingredients prepared by an immortal chef to defeat the demon god blood barley that I've worked so hard to gather from the demon god battlefield? Are all the Qilin chefs from the Heaven Chief realm so arrogant? Boom! Zheng Quangjio roared. A pitch-black heart of Cooking Path rose behind him. Its pressure turned into a storm, clashing with Mengqi's heart of Cooking Path's pressure. Invisible waves expanded. Everyone was shocked. A chef's challenge that belonged to a Qilin chef was about to break out. Chapter 1084. The theme of the chef's challenge was noodles. Noodles were a major category in the culinary arts. There were many kinds of noodles, but in fact there were only a few. Mixed noodles, soup noodles, stir-fried noodles, and so on. All kinds of basic noodle cooking could be divided into many branches. Along with the development of the noodle category, chefs had researched more and more different cooking methods, and the interpretation of the opposite side became more and more profound. The soup base of the noodles, the selection of ingredients, the kneading of the noodles, and so on, all had different explanations and method. The theme of this chef's challenge was noodles. Perhaps it was an unintentional choice by the Lord Go. However, to the two Qilin chefs present, it was a very difficult battle. In the eyes of the experts of the Dark Nether chef's camp, Mengqi was bound to lose. Most importantly, that woman didn't even prepare the ingredients. She actually used the ingredients provided by an immortal chef. As everyone knew, the level of the Heaven Chief was different, so the ingredients he used were also different. For example, the demon god blood barley that Zheng Quangjio had prepared was a top-grade immortal ingredient. It was an immortal ingredient soaked in the blood of a demon god. In terms of quality, it was enough to crush Mengqi. From the beginning, Mengqi had lost. Of course, no one was optimistic about Mengqi's ingredient. No matter how good the ingredients provided by an immortal chef were, could they be better than the ingredients prepared by a Qilin chef? However, in everyone's eyes, Mengqi didn't give up. She processed the ears of wheat that Bufang had provided. After being professionally processed, they were made into flour. Then, she began to cook seriously. For this chef's challenge, Mengqi didn't dare to be careless. Seeing that Mengqi wasn't affected, Zheng Quangjio didn't act arrogantly. No Qilin chef was easy to deal with. As a Nether chef who had emerged from the cruel Dark Nether chef's challenge, Zheng Quangjio naturally wouldn't make the mistake of underestimating his opponent. Thus, he also began to cook seriously. The atmosphere suddenly became stagnant. No one dared to breathe loudly. The dark cuisine was a food category that the Nether chefs of Nether Prison had researched. The food they cooked had dark Nether energy winding around it, which was really strange. Making noodles was the first step. First, the type of noodles determined the type of noodles they were going to cook. Rumble! Crimson flour fluttered in the air. The demon god blood barley flour in front of Zheng Quangjio was crimson, as if it was stained with the blood of a demon god. Zheng Quangjio's mental force swept out, which seemed to raise tens of thousands of waves. The crimson flour was pressed into his palm, turning into a powder ball. He raised his index finger, and the flour ball immediately spun on his finger. The crimson flour particles floated around it. Zheng Quangjio's other hand seemed to have turned into thousands of phantoms, slapping the pink sphere, making it spin faster and faster. The void seemed to crack because of the powder. In the powder. SSS. Another, unlike Zheng Quangjio's noisy cooking, Mengqi's cooking was very normal. Her hands were covered with flour as she quietly kneaded the dough. She added water, eggs, and kneaded the dough. Her movements were gentle and unhurried. That white ball of powder kept changing shape in her hand. While kneading the dough, Mengqi was so focused that she didn't notice a strand of hair falling from her forehead. Her exquisite side profile and the strand of hair falling from her forehead caused many people to be mesmerized. Mengqi seemed to have already decided what kind of noodles to make. Although she wasn't good at cooking noodles, as a Chilean chef, she had dabbled in it. She wasn't an extreme Chilean chef who just immersed herself in studying a dish. A stove surrounded by immortal qi was placed in front of her. The stove seemed to be emitting a dazzling radiance, which made Mengqi feel refreshed. His slender fingers rubbed the dough. When it was completely turned into a ball of powder, Mengqi began to prepare the noodles. She was going to make ramen, and the technique of pulling noodles was the key. Mengqi's gaze suddenly froze, and in the next moment, she was highly focused. Her slender, white fingers reached out, touching the dough. Then, she pulled it up, dipping a little bit on her finger. After pulling it up, a thin line of noodles was pulled out. The tip of her foot gently touched the ground, and Mengqi's figure slowly flew up. Swish! Her immortal robe fluttered, making rustling sounds. The ball of noodles on the stove began to spin. As the thin line of noodles in her hand was constantly pulled out, the ball of powder also began to shrink. Then, something more breathtaking happened. Mengqi began to twirl the strand of noodles in her hand, dancing gracefully. Swish! One of the noodles seemed to have turned into a ribbon, spinning and dancing around her body, constantly twining and wrapping her up in circles. One of the noodles was uniform in thickness. Immortal qi diffused from it. As the noodles spun, it also seeped in. It made the noodles shine with a sparkling light. The surrounding heaven chief was immersed in Mengqi's dreamy fairy-like scene, unable to pull themselves out. All of a sudden, a loud thud broke everyone's immersion. The heaven chief was frightened, looking at the opposite side of Mengqi. There, Zheng Quangjiu pulled the blood-colored noodles with both of his hands, slamming them on the stove. The violent explosion echoed from the stove. That sound was like a thunderclap. With every slap, the powerful noodles would tremble violently. Blood-colored flour floated on the noodles, staining them. A wave of trembling followed the shaking, pouring into each noodle. It made the noodles not only strong, but also soft. His 5 fingers opened, and the noodles seemed to turn into 3,000 blood-colored hairs, spreading out. Under Zheng Quangjiu's careful shaking, it slowly spread out like wave. This technique is so delicate. The shaking of the hand moves the netherworld aura into every noodle like threads, worthy of being a Chilean chef. This detailed operation is really hard to imagine. The surrounding heaven chief sucked in a breath of cold air. When had they ever seen such an operation? Swish! Each noodle seemed to have a life of its own, fluttering. Zheng Quangjiu let go of his hand, letting the noodles shake on the other side. He then walked to the stove, taking out ingredients that were filled with monstrous nether energy. Each of these ingredients was full of visual shock. There was a giant fruit that looked like a skull. There were also spirit herbs that looked like spiders. Some of the ingredients were even wriggling, and black gas spread out. It looked really creepy and disgusting. The heaven chief was in an uproar. The dishes cooked with these ingredients. Could they be eaten? Zheng Quangjiu felt a burst of disdain for the surrounding heaven chief's frightened eyes. These were the ingredients of the nether prison. Don't think that they looked so disgusting, but they were actually top-grade ingredient. The crescent moon-like kitchen knife spun. A crescent moon emerged behind Zheng Quangjiu. A wave of terrifying knife energy instantly spread out, suppressing the entire place. Mengqi flew out from the dancing noodle net. Her toes touched the ground, then she began to process the other ingredient. This time, she chose to make soup noodles. Thus, she needed to make the soup base. Opening her mouth, a pale blue flame drilled out, pouring into the stove. Instantly, the stove exploded. A pot was placed on the stove, then it began to boil the soup base. City Lord Mengqi carefully put the spirit herbs and immortal ingredients into the pot. The selection of the immortal herbs and spirit ingredients was very strict. The selection of the quality and the control of the quantity had strict requirements. Rumble. In the black pot the soup was boiling. City Lord Mengqi carefully skimmed off the foam on the soup, then put the ingredients into it, continuing to boil. After putting in the ingredients 5 times, she stopped boiling the soup base. At this time, she began to make the last noodle. As time passed, the atmosphere in the field became more and more stagnant. Everyone felt as if there was a huge rock pressing down on their chest. This woman isn't bad. Under Zheng Quangjio's pressure, she can still cook calmly, Emoshio said, clasping his hands. However, it's all in vain. Rumble. Streams of black clouds swept over. The terrifying black clouds brought an incomparably terrifying pressure. That black cloud was like a monster that covered the sky and covered the sun. Sizzle! Above City Lord Mengqi's head, black clouds rolled, and deep blue lightning bolts were moving. Above Zheng Quangjio's head, black clouds were also rolling, but the lightning bolts were pitch black. Zheng Quangjio grumpily stir-fried. Those disgusting ingredients were thrown into the pot, and he began to stir-fry. He wasn't making soup noodles, but stir-fried noodles. As the ingredients were stir-fried, a wave of fragrance filled the air. When the egg was poured into the wok, the rich aroma of the dish reached its peak, exploding in all directions like a bomb. Waves after waves swept across the area. The blood-colored noodles were poured into the pot, and they continued to stir-fry. The lightning became more oppressive. Both sides knew that they had entered the final stage of cooking. Boom! Finally, the lightning, which had been suppressed for a long time, roared and struck. The dark blue lightning bolts and the pitch-black lightning bolts entangled each other, clashing. Realm Lord Dit and the others watched the lightning strikes in the sky. The first lightning strike was a very important one. It was related to the balance of the two dishes. All of a sudden, the eyes of Realm Lord Dit and the others shrank, because they saw that under the first lightning strike, Mengqi's lightning seemed to scatter a little faster. This meant that Mengqi's dish was at a disadvantage, and the balance of victory had begun to tilt to Zheng Quangjio's side. Boom! 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 1 lightning strike, 2 lightning strikes, and 3 lightning strikes. A pitch-black thunderbolt streaked across the sky without making a sound. The deep blue lightning was dazzling, tearing the sky, clashing with the dark clouds. The collision between the two was shocking. They scattered. The lightning strikes collided 7 times, and each time was stronger than the last. Later on, when the lightning strikes appeared, the Heaven Chief's body shivered. They almost thought that the end of the world was coming. 7 lightning punishments. Worthy of the confrontation between Qilin chefs. Too scary. Facing those lightning punishments, it feels like the end of the world. The Heaven Chief sucked in a breath of cold air. Lu Yi gazed at City Lord Mengqi, his eyes fanatical. The peerless beauty of City Lord Mengqi and the goddess in his mind had completely overlapped. You have to win. Lu Yi clenched his fists, letting out a low roar. He didn't want Mengqi to be like him, deprived of her right to cook and become a cripple. Bufang's eyes were also watching. Was this the confrontation between Qilin chefs? No matter if it was knife skills, fire control, or momentum, or the heart of cooking path, they were all much better than the Heaven Chief. Each point was precise to a very fine degree. Neither of them made a single mistake in their cooking. It was almost as complete and perfect as a textbook. The 7 lightning punishments had collided. Zheng Quangjio fiercely pounded the black wok with his ladle. The pitch-black nether energy was like a demon, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. A pitch-black radiance diffused from it. It looked incomparably strange and disgusting. However, it filled people with an incomparable appetite. Dark delicacy. Demon God's corpse noodles, done. As soon as his voice fell, Zheng Quangjio flicked his finger. That bowl of fried noodles slowly floated out, floating in the air. Everyone's eyes were dazed. Looking at the noodles and smelling that aroma, it seemed like a vast battlefield had appeared in front of them. On the battlefield, the sounds of killing echoed unceasingly. Some gods roared, and some great demons roared. Demon gods fell one after another, their corpses falling into the air. It was incomparably shocking. Buzz, a strange aura suddenly spread out from Mengqi's direction. It was unknown where the warm sunlight came from. Her sleeves touched. That bowl of noodle soup floated up. It floated next to Zheng Kuangzhou's noodles. It tore a world from the demon god's battlefield. The warm sunlight, the warm breeze, the fragrance of grass, and the sound of flowing water, it was like a pure land in the bloody demon god's battlefield. The immortal robe on Mengqi's body fluttered. 3,000 strands of black hair scattered around. Immortal energy twirled around her face, and her eyes were hazy. Noodle soup. Little bridge running water, done. Her voice was like the chirping of an oriole, resounding in everyone's ears. It was like a sharp sword slashing down. It tore the demon god's battlefield in everyone's mind. Everyone was in an uproar. The dishes of the two Qilin chefs were done. Chapter 1085. Space of the heaven tree. Above the vault of heaven, there was a huge hole. From it, monstrous nether energy constantly surged out. Under the hole was the giant heaven tree, which had been broken into two halves. In the middle of the heaven tree, a golden light shot up to the sky, where 3 golden seeds of the heaven tree were floating. A huge phantom was floating, and in the middle of the phantom's head was a huge blood-colored gem. Tens of thousands of lights shone from the gem, forming a formation. The formation shrouded everything. It formed an arena. In the arena, billowing steam soared up to the sky, and thick aroma filled the air. Black and white lights competed with each other. 2 dishes floated in the air. Thick nether energy and monstrous immortal energy collided with each other, making sizzling sounds. On one side, the nether energy showed the battlefield of the demon god, while on the other side, the immortal energy showed a pleasant scene with a small bridge and a flowing river. City Lord Mengqi was like a real goddess, floating up. Her immortal robe was curling up, and immortal energy was twirling around her face. Zheng Kuangzhou crossed his arms, his eyes like torches. He looked like a demon god. Both dishes were completed, competing with each other in the void. Everyone held their breath. The 2 Qilin chefs had finished cooking their dishes. Above those dishes, thick immortal energy and nether energy were twirling around. At first glance, people knew it wasn't an ordinary dish. Without a doubt, they were both top-grade immortal dishes. The atmosphere was stagnant for a while. Then, the Heaven Chief came back to their senses, bursting into an uproar. Everyone looked at the 2 dishes in the arena with great longing. They were Qilin chef's dishes. The Lord Go appeared with his enchanting cat-like steps. Emo Xiu clasped his hands, also stepping into the arena. Dit's realm Lord robe fluttered. His figure suddenly appeared next to the Lord Go. The first chef's challenge has ended here. The Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice resounded. He seemed to be interested in being the referee. The rich aroma of the dishes rolled, and the 2 dishes collided in the void. Emo Xiu took a closer look and found that the 2 of them had completely different styles. Zheng Kuangzhou's noodles were the authentic delicacies of the dark world. The surging nether energy and the blood-colored noodles gave people an unparalleled visual impact, making their minds tremble. As for Mengqi's noodles, it was a bowl of noodle soup. Immortal energy lingered above the bowl. At a glance, one could not see what the dish looked like. However, the sound of the flowing river and the gentle breeze made people feel relaxed. Without a doubt, this was a unique dish. Although the 2 Heaven Chief chefs weren't good at cooking noodles, they were Qilin chefs after all. With their foundation, the dishes they cooked were all extraordinary. Next is the evaluation segment. Apart from the 3 of us, we need another customer to evaluate. The Lord Go said. His gaze swept around and finally landed on Lu Yi in the distance. "It's you. Come up." Lu Yi was bewildered. He didn't think that he would be chosen by the Lord Go. Instantly, he was ecstatic. This meant that he could have a chance to taste the dishes cooked by City Lord Mingqi? Under the gaze of the god of Chef's Challenge, if their evaluation of the dishes goes against their will, they will be obliterated. Emo Xiao didn't care about the Lord Go's selection, smiling faintly. The Dark Nether cooking realm was a very cruel place. There were a lot of resources there, but there was also a lot of competition. To get more resources, they had to rely on plundering, which was the Chef's Challenge. Only by winning the Chef's Challenge could they survive and obtain more resources. And every Chef's Challenge would be witnessed by the god of Chef's Challenge. The evaluators would only evaluate the quality of the dishes fairly. If they were biased, they would be obliterated. The 4 judges had tasted the 2 dishes. The god of Chef's Challenge was the witness. Zheng Quangjiu was very confident. Although the woman's dish looked good, it would be very difficult to defeat his dish. That was because the ingredients he had chosen were different. Moreover, in the previous confrontation with the lightning punishment, he had won. Thus, he had a big chance to win this Chef's Challenge. Thus, he wasn't nervous at all. The one who should be nervous was the woman opposite him. However, what made Zheng Quangjiu suspicious was that the woman didn't seem nervous at all. It seemed she was very confident in her dish. Where does her confidence come from? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Soon, this confidence will be torn to pieces. Zheng Quangjiu grinned, revealing a ruthless face. "Let's taste Zheng Quangjiu's dish first," Emo Xiao said, clasping his hands. Emo Xiao clasped his hands behind his back as he spoke. He looked at Lord Dog with a teasing gaze. That dog was stupid enough to propose such a challenge. Thus, Emo Xiao wanted to let the dog feel that it had made a wrong decision. No one refused. Everyone present had already planned to taste the dark delicacy. Rumble pitch-black nether energy moved above the dish. In that dish, the ingredients seemed to be wiggling, but the aroma was so thick that it was bursting out. Their ears seemed to hear the sounds of gods and demons fighting. The surrounding heaven chief gazed at the judges. It was a disgusting dish, but it made people hungry. This dish. What would it be like? Would it be able to defeat Goddess Mingqi's dish? Swish Emo Xiao held his chopsticks, picking up a small bowl of noodles. Then, he put the noodles in his mouth. Swish. The blood-colored noodles entered his mouth in just a blink of an eye, as though they had a life of their own. As soon as they entered his mouth, heaven-toppling nether energy exploded in his mouth. Not bad. After taking a bite, the smile on Emo Xiao's face became wider. These noodles were almost perfect. Realm Lord Dit's robe was shaking, and the holy light on his lower body was faintly discernible. He also picked up a small bowl of god and demon corpse noodles. The name of this dish was really irritable, and it looked somewhat irritable. Swish. Realm Lord Dit blew the hot air on the noodles. Then, with a swish, he sucked the noodles into his mouth. The noodles seemed to have a life of their own, entering his mouth in just a blink of an eye. In that instant, Realm Lord Dit's eyes shrank. His golden hair seemed to be standing on end. This feeling Realm Lord Dit felt as though his mouth had become a battlefield. The sounds of fighting shook the sky, and the shadows of knives and swords were unceasing. That kind of soul-stirring feeling made him swallow a mouthful of saliva. And as he swallowed, he didn't know when the noodles in his mouth had entered his stomach. The noodles were very chewy, which was attributed to the ingredients. The origin of these ingredients was different, and they contained a rich flavor. Moreover, the ingredients used to make the stir-fried noodles were very exquisite. Although these ingredients looked incomparably disgusting, when they tasted, they made people swallow their tongues. It was too delicious. It was a kind of ingredient that he had never tasted before. The novel feeling made Realm Lord Dit instantly captivated by this delicacy. However, at the same time, Realm Lord Dit's mind couldn't help but sink. This kind of dish. Could little Meng Meng's noodles really win? It was difficult. It was Lu Yi's first time tasting a Chilean chef's dish, which made his mind a little excited. Looking at the noodles that seemed to have come to life, although it was disgusting, he couldn't feel the slightest bit of disgust. The means of a Chilean chef were really hard to imagine. Any kind of ingredient could become a dish. A mouthful of noodles entered his stomach. The sound of gods and demons fighting almost made Lu Yi's mind explode. That feeling made him completely immersed in it. His eyes were filled with deep shock. This, Lu Yi was completely dumbfounded. He didn't know what to say. This noodles. How could it be so delicious? It was a perfect and flawless dish. An existence like an ant. Have you seen real cooking? Looking at Lu Yi's posture, Zheng Guangjiu suddenly grinned. That was a confident smile. The expressions of the judges fell into his eyes. Without a doubt, he knew that he would win. It was hard for him to imagine what kind of noodles could win his stir-fried noodles. Buzz, that sky-covering phantom of the god of chef's challenge, began to tremble. Every judge's mind trembled. The surrounding heaven chief's mind had long sunk to the bottom of the valley. Was he going to lose? This was a competition that concerned the hope of the heaven chief realm. Was he really going to lose? Every heaven chief clenched their fists, their eyes filled with nervousness. As the blood-colored gem of the god of chef's challenge swept across, each of the judges gave their final evaluation of this dish. This score was the real score from the taster's feeling toward the dish. It wasn't mixed with any exaggeration. The corners of Mo Xiu's mouth rose as he gave the score. In the void, two big words emerged. 90. Lord Go's dog mouth twitched. This group of nether chef's craftsmanship wasn't bad. Above Lord Go's head, two big words emerged. 91. Realm Lord Dit took a deep breath, giving the score. 91. Finally, only Lu Yi was left. Lu Yi hadn't recovered from the shock of the dish. Then, the score flashed above his head. 95. As soon as the score came out, the entire audience burst into an uproar. Traitor! How could he give such a high score? Damn it! Lu Yi, this traitorous fellow! He's a loyal fan of Goddess Mengqi. Giving such a score, does he have the face to see Goddess Mengqi? Below, the heaven chief was filled with indignation. Almost all of them pointed at Lu Yi and scolded him. However, Lu Yi smiled bitterly in his heart. His face was pale. This score was given by the god of chef's challenge, according to his evaluation. It couldn't be controlled. This dish was really good. Alright. Don't worry. Next, please taste my dish, Mengqi said casually. She wasn't frightened by Zheng Guangjiu's high score. Mengqi's eyes fell on Bu Fong in the distance. Looking at Bu Fong, a smile bloomed on her face. It was so beautiful that it could intoxicate people. Thank you, Mengqi said in a low voice. Bu Fong was bewildered. Why did this woman thank him? Was it because of the wheat? It was just the wheat in his heaven and earth farmland. What was there to thank? Looking at Bu Fong's bewildered face, Goddess Mengqi covered her mouth and giggled. Her eyes were filled with unparalleled confidence. The outcome was still uncertain. It was Mengqi's turn. It was a bowl of noodle soup. The broth was so clear that it looked like a mirror. It didn't have any impurities or ingredient. It was a very simple bowl of noodles. There was only broth and noodles. The noodles were milky white, as if there was light moving around it. Just looking at it, it gave people a feeling of a cool breeze. Mo Xiu was a little surprised. This noodle seemed a little different. Reaching out his chopsticks, he picked up the noodles. Hot steam rose up, and it was extremely dense. Placing the noodles into a small bowl, he used a spoon to scoop the clear broth into the bowl. When the broth completely covered the noodles in the bowl, Mo Xiu couldn't wait to taste the dish. Using his chopsticks, he picked up the noodles that looked like a piece of cloth. The milky white noodles were thin and uniform, like fine silk, spreading out. Hot air surged from it, rising like a mushroom cloud. Emo-shio pouted, blowing on the noodles. The steam was instantly blown away. Slurp. The noodles entered his mouth. Instantly, Emo-shio's face froze. As his teeth closed, the noodles in his mouth broke one by one. A clear sound echoed, like a taut spring breaking, bouncing on the wall of his mouth. Clatter, 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 clatter. After a burst of chewing, the noodles broke, and a rhythmic sound echoed. It was like a cool breeze blowing on his face. Emo-shio felt as if his body was floating in the air. Then, he arrived at a vast prairie. Riding on a single-horned white horse, he galloped confidently on the vast grassland that stretched as far as the eye could see. After galloping, he heard the sound of flowing water coming from the sky. The sound of running water echoed in his ears, intoxicating him and making him sink into it. There was a small bridge and a wooden house. Inside the wooden house, a graceful figure was faintly discernible. Her thin veil fluttered, making people sink into it. Boom! Emo-shio opened his eyes. A moment later, a trace of surprise emerged in the depths of his eyes. This feeling, Emo-shio sucked in a breath of cold air. He didn't look at Mengqi. Instead, he turned his head to look at Bufang, the immortal chef who had given him the wheat. When Mengqi saw Emo-shio's appearance, the corners of her mouth curled into a faintly discernible smile. "Did you notice? That wheat isn't ordinary." Chapter 1086. Bufang was actually dumbfounded. When Mengqi looked at him with a grateful expression, he didn't think that there was anything to be grateful about. Didn't he just provide wheat to make flour? Why would she show such a grateful expression? City Lord Mengqi was really too polite. Mengqi wasn't confident at all. When she received the wheat from Bufang, she didn't have any hope at all. But, the moment she touched the ear of wheat, the feeling it gave her changed, causing her to be a little skeptical. And during the cooking process, the feeling the wheat displayed made her even more certain that the wheat that Bufang gave her wasn't ordinary. Emo-shio's complexion changed dramatically the moment he took a bite of the noodles. The people around him also felt the change in him. It was a kind of shock, a kind of inconceivable feeling. Emo-shio looked at Mengqi deeply. However, Mengqi just revealed a charming smile. Swish. Emo-shio felt a little strange. The impact this noodles gave him was somewhat different from the others. Thus, he chose to take another bite to confirm his thoughts. This bite caused his pupils to constrict. Realm Lord Dit seemed a little strange about Emo-shio's appearance. Could it be that there was something strange about Mengqi's bowl of noodles? Mengqi's cooking skills weren't bad, but she wasn't good at cooking noodles. Moreover, this time she was cooking soup noodles. Compared to Zheng Quangjio's fried noodles, it was a lot weaker. Noodle soup was tasteless, but stir-fried noodles were a kind of fragrant and flavorful noodle. Comparing the two, soup noodles were naturally at a disadvantage. Compared to bland and fiery was naturally more attractive. Realm Lord Dit held a small white jade bowl. The clear soup in the bowl was like a mirror, like the heavenly mountain spirit spring. It didn't have any impurities, looking very clear and transparent. The milky white noodles inside were very distinct, as if they were combed very neatly. Hot steam gushed out from the soup bowl, rolling like a thick cloud. The soup bowl became a little hot because of the hot noodles. Realm Master Dit held the bowl. His mouth moved to the edge of the bowl and blew, causing the hot air in the bowl to pour out. Chi, he drank a few mouthfuls of soup. The clear and scalding soup immediately drilled into his mouth. The moment it entered his mouth, a wonderful taste blossomed in his mouth. Before eating noodle soup, drink the soup first. A bowl of soup was an important factor in judging the quality of noodle soup. The soup base of noodle soup was the most important. Realm Lord D Tai's eyes brightened when he took a bite. This soup looked refreshing, but it was actually a bowl of thick soup. The essence contained within caused World Overlord Dit's entire body to heat up. A soup made with over a dozen types of immortal herbs and the bones of a spirit beast? World Overlord Dit sighed. He glanced at City Lord Mengqi as a strange expression appeared on his face. The soup base was very strange, but the most peculiar thing was that it had a trace of unique essence, which contained a thick fragrance of noodles. The fragrance of the noodles made Realm Lord Di Tai want to eat them. His chopsticks picked up the noodles. The slender, neat, milky white noodles were picked up. The soup flowed down, making it incomparably slippery. Slurp. Opening his mouth, the noodles entered his mouth and sucked hard. Instantly, slurping sounds echoed unceasingly. When the surrounding immortal chefs saw their table manners, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Their bellies felt a little hungry. A Chilean chef's dish really made people hungry. As he chewed the noodles, a strange feeling burst out. Each noodle was like a spring bouncing on the walls of his mouth, bursting with thick immortal energy. However, these weren't the most important things. The most important thing was, the noodles contained a strange fluctuation. That fluctuation sublimated the taste of the noodles. Realm Lord Dit finally knew why Emo Shio's face was strange. The fluctuation in the noodles sublimated the whole bowl of noodles. To put it simply, if it hadn't been for those fluctuations, Meng Qi would have definitely lost. But it was precisely because of those fluctuations that made the result of the competition so confusing that it was hard to tell who would win or lose. Who would win and who would lose? It was really hard to say. This fluctuation seems to be the will of the Great Path? Realm Lord Dit was a little surprised, saying, Emo Shio was very sure that this was the will of the Great Path. That wheat actually contained the will of the Great Path. Although it wasn't a strong will of the Great Path, it sublimated the dish. After eating it, people could feel like they were wandering in another world. On the other side, everyone saw Lu Yi, who was eating noodles. Everyone had a complicated look on their faces. Lu Yi cried. While eating noodles, he cried. Tears and snot flowed down his face as he sobbed. The noodles in his mouth made Lu Yi feel the art of cooking. The emotions contained in it let Lu Yi release the grievances he had suffered for a long time. At this moment, he thought it through. His mood of being immersed in failure also came out from this bowl of noodles. All right, let's start to score. Lord Go said calmly. That kid Bufang seemed to have done something incredible again. This kind of wheat that contained the will of the Great Path. How did he take it out? As a dog that had eaten the will of the Great Path, it was naturally very familiar with this feeling. That was why Lord Go was so surprised. Since when could that kid Bufang fuse the will of the Great Path into the wheat? Of course, Bufang didn't know what had happened. He was a little dumbfounded as people kept looking at him. Why were they looking at him like that? Buzz, that huge phantom of the god of Chef's challenge, shot out light from its blood-red gem-like eyes. Regarding Mingqi's bowl of noodles, the little bridge running water, the scoring began now. Everyone held their breath. This was a chef's challenge related to the life and death of the Heaven Chief realm. She couldn't lose. Each of the Heaven Chief clenched his fists, their hearts filled with hope. A beam of light flashed above Emo Shio's head. Shortly, under the witness of the god of cooking path, he gave out his score. 90. The Heaven Chief sighed in regret. 90 wasn't too high. It was the same score as the Nether Cooking Realm's dish. However, some Heaven Chief spirits were shaken as they felt hope. Emo Shio was their enemy. If he gave out such a score, it meant that Goddess Mingqi's dish wasn't bad. Zheng Quangjiu couldn't believe Emo Shio's score. But soon, he calmed down because he was very confident. He had won the lightning punishment competition. Although the lightning punishment couldn't prove everything, it could give him a rough result. His dish would definitely win. Besides, how could the bland and tasteless noodle soup defeat the spicy fried noodles? Crossing his arms in front of his chest, Zheng Quangjiu looked at Mingqi, his eyes cold and arrogant. He would win. He would crush the Chilean chef of the declining Heaven Chief realm. The Lord Go also gave out his score. 91. It was the same score as Zheng Guangzhou. If the Lord Go hadn't eaten the Great Path, perhaps his score would be higher. However, since the Lord Go had eaten the Great Path, he wasn't that enthusiastic about this noodle. Still, he gave it a fair score of 91. Realm Lord Dit swallowed the noodle in his mouth. Gulp, gulp. Holding the bowl, he drank the clear noodle soup in the bowl. The refreshing feeling of the clear soup flowing through his mouth and into his stomach made the pores of Realm Lord Dit open. So comfortable! Realm Lord Dit said excitedly. Buzz above his head, the score of this bowl of noodles was given. 91. The crowd burst into an uproar. The corners of Mengqi's mouth couldn't help but curl up. This score had surpassed Zheng Guangzhou's score. The surrounding Heaven Chief also waved their fists excitedly. The final score could only depend on Lu Yi. This guy had given Zheng Guangzhou a high score of 95. Everyone looked at Lu Yi. Everyone's gaze landed on Lu Yi. Zheng Guangzhou suddenly felt a little guilty. Although he was full of confidence, he also felt a little pressure. He stared at Lu Yi a little nervous. Because this person's score would determine the winner of this chef's challenge. At this moment, the atmosphere became stagnant. Bufang couldn't help but look over, his eyes slightly narrowing. Lu Yi's face was covered in tears. Because of this bowl of noodles, he was enlightened. Lifting his sleeves, he wiped his face and rubbed his nose. Then, he wiped the remaining tears off his face. In the sky, the radiance fell, shining on his head. A moment later, everyone's eyes gazed at the number that appeared. As soon as this number appeared, everyone's eyes shrank, their mouths dropped, and their eyes widened. Lu Yi's score would determine the final winner. And how many points Lu Yi had given had become the focus of everyone's attention. Mengqi clutched her heaving chest, her eyes a little scared. She was afraid of losing. She was afraid that she couldn't bear the consequences of failure. Her long eyelashes fluttered as she closed her eyes. She didn't dare to look at the score. All of a sudden, after a long moment of silence, her ears suddenly burst into a fierce clamor. The surrounding Heaven Chief's excited voice made Mengqi's heart tremble even more. How could it be? Zheng Guangzhou roared. This roar was filled with unwillingness and anger. Mengqi was stunned. She opened her eyes, her big eyes impatiently looking at Lu Yi's head. The score was hanging above his head. 98. An extremely high score. This was the high score given under the witness of the God of Chef's challenge. Perhaps because Lu Yi's strength was low, he gave a high score. However, it didn't affect the final score. 98 points completely crushed Zheng Guangzhou's 95 points. Lu Yi closed his eyes, but tears still rolled down his cheeks. He sighed with emotion. He was excited. This bowl of noodles had restored his confidence and hope to his culinary path. The path of culinary path should be galloping on horseback. On the path of culinary path, he had to keep walking and never give up. Lost? Emo Xiu's face became extremely ugly. Zheng Guangzhou, this guy, lost to a Qilin chef from the Heaven Chief realm? This trash. Emo Xiu's face was cold, his white hair fluttering in the wind as he said coldly. Zheng Guangzhou was dumbstruck. His eyes were blank. He lost? Impossible. How could I lose? The wheat I used is demon god blood barley. I risked my life to gather it from the demon god battlefield. How could I lose? Zheng Guangzhou couldn't accept this result, hissing. His eyes were filled with disbelief. All of a sudden Zheng Guangzhou gawked. His eyes turned, locking on Bufang in the distance. The only reason why Mengqi could win was because of the wheat this brat had given her. That wheat! What was it after all? With a ripping sound, Zheng Guangzhou broke the sky, crazily dashing towards Bufang. However, before he could get close to Bufang, a pitch-black dog paw condensed above his head. A loud bang echoed. Zheng Guangzhou was hit by the exquisite dog paw, smashing to the ground. He spurted blood, his eyes dim. He was unwilling. Lord Go indifferently looked at Zheng Guangzhou. This guy lost the chef's challenge, but he still wanted to attack that kid Bufang. Did he really think that after Lord Go ate this bowl of noodles, he would become a vegetarian? That wheat. What is it after all? Zheng Kuangjiu stared at Bufang, asking in a hoarse voice. You mean the wheat? Bufang furrowed his brows. Could it be that Mengqi could win because of the wheat? Those ears of wheat were planted by me. Bufang thought, then answered seriously. At that time, he had planted a seed. He planted it himself? Puff! Zheng Kuangjiu spurted blood. How could an immortal chef's wheat defeat the demon god blood barley that he had risked his life to gather in the demon god battlefield? Could he not lie like that? Mengqi covered her mouth, her beautiful face smiling. The great demon is really naughty. He wants to anger this nether chef to death. Chapter 1087. I've grown them myself. Bufang was telling the truth. However, no one believed Bufang's words. Could an ingredient grown by an immortal chef be stronger than the wheat that a nether chef had risked his life to bring back from the ancient demon god battlefield? It was the demon god blood barley, the wheat that had been soaked in the demon god's blood. Even in nether prison, this kind of wheat was considered a top ingredient. Although it wasn't as good as a sacred-grade immortal ingredient, it was much more precious than ordinary top-grade immortal ingredient. And an immortal chef could take out top-grade ingredients? Who would believe that? People thought that Bufang was trying to anger that nether chef. From Bufang's serious appearance, people thought that he was trying to anger Zheng Kuangjiu. I won't tell you where the wheat comes from. Are you angry? Angry. Of course, Zheng Kuangjiu was so angry that he wanted to die. He coughed blood. However, what made Zheng Kuangjiu depressed was that he didn't know why he lost. That woman's cooking skill was weaker than his. He had won the lightning punishment, but he King lost. It was the most irritating thing. Boom. Don't make a fool of yourself. All of a sudden, a giant hand made of dark qi suddenly grabbed Zheng Kuangjiu's body and threw him away. Zheng Kuangjiu was unwilling. His eyes were bloodshot, and his gray hair fluttered in the air. Blood trickled down the corner of his mouth as he roared at the sky. So angry. How did I lose? Boom. The god of chef's challenge shot a blood-colored light beam at Zheng Kuangjiu. Instantly, Zheng Kuangjiu shivered, his face frightened. The heart of cooking path on his body began to scatter unceasingly. It turned into a silver light beam, shooting up into the sky. The god of chef's challenge then absorbed it. The blood-colored gem-like eyeball seemed to turn into a vortex, continuously absorbing the energy of the Qilin chef's heart. The chef robe on Zheng Kuangjiu's body was taken away. The kitchen knife, stove, black wok, chopsticks, bowl, everything related to cooking path was taken away. With a series of clanging sounds, it turned into a torrent that soared into the sky and floated in front of Mengqi. If you fail the chef's challenge, according to the rules of the chef's challenge, you will be deprived of your right to cook, and you will never be a chef again. Pieces of kitchen utensils floated in front of Mengqi like a dream. These kitchen utensils all emitted a terrifying aura. These kitchen utensils were shrouded in nether energy, and each of them was as powerful as the immortal robe Mengqi was wearing. The corners of Mo Xiu's mouth were trembling. These were their nether prison's supreme-grade netherworld tools, and they were actually taken away just like that. It was necessary to feel heartache. However, Mo Xiu had no choice. As a member of the nether prison, he knew the consequences of violating the rules of the god of chef's challenge. Therefore, he could only watch as Mengqi took away the kitchen utensils. Mengqi did not put away the utensils immediately. Her figure floated like a fairy and landed beside Bufang. Bufang was a little puzzled. Bufang, it's all thanks to your ears of wheat that we can win this time. So, you can choose one of these utensils. Mengqi said seriously. Was there a reward for this? City Lord Mengqi was really too polite. The corners of Bu Fang's mouth twitched slightly as he glanced at Mengqi. He did not stand on ceremony with Mengqi. Now, he understood that the ears of wheat that Niu Hansan gave him were absolutely extraordinary. They helped Mengqi win the chef's challenge, so it was normal for him to be rewarded. Therefore, Bu Fang's eyes fell on those kitchen utensils. These utensils were all equivalent to supreme-grade immortal tools. The surrounding Heaven Chief was instantly envious. It was a rare opportunity to have a chance to choose among so many supreme-grade immortal tools. However, it was out of everyone's expectation. Bu Fang's eyes did not linger on those utensils. Instead, they fell on a black flame. Since Bu Fang had the god of cooking set, he disdained these utensils. This flame's temperature was really high. As it burned fiercely, the illusionary void twisted. "I want this flame," Bu Fang said. Then, he reached out his hand, retrieving the black flame. 23rd place on the Nether Flame list, the Bone Spirit Nether Flame. As soon as he retrieved the black flame, the system's solemn introduction resounded in Bu Fang's head. The flame ranked 23rd on the Nether Flame list? Bu Fang couldn't help but take in a breath of cold air. No wonder he could feel that the temperature of this flame was much higher than the Golden Lotus demonic flame. The Nether Flame list should be the list of immortal flames in Nether Prison. Immortal flames and Nether flames were both heaven and earth items, so the difference between them wasn't too big. The 23rd place on the Nether Flame list corresponded to the immortal flames ranked in the 20s. Being able to obtain such a flame was not bad at all. A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. The Nether Flame on the Nether Flame list isn't something that an immortal chef can subdue. Be careful, or the will of the Nether Flame will invade your spirit sea and turn you into a fool. From a distance, Emoshio said coldly. However, Bu Fang just glanced at him, twitching the corner of his mouth. His spirit sea was really vast. If the will of the Nether Flame dared to enter, Bu Fang would make sure that it wouldn't be able to return. You don't want to change? The Nether Flame is a strange flame that's really hard to control. Don't let it affect your will. City Lord Mengqi retrieved the other utensils, looking a little worried at Bu Fang. Bu Fang shook his head, indicating that he was fine. The first chef's challenge was won by the Heaven Chief Realm. This gave the Heaven Chief Realm's Heaven Chief Realm a shot of adrenaline. Everybody became spirited, feeling that the Heaven Chief Realm could still be saved. Emoshio's face was cold. On the other side, Zheng Quangjiu, who had been deprived of his cooking talent and all his utensils, was lying on the ground like a dead dog. His eyes were bloodshot, and his body emitted a violent aura. However, under Emoshio's suppression, he didn't flare up. Emoshio understood that Zheng Quangjiu's heart was suppressing his anger. However, he couldn't get angry that easily. With this dog here, if they fought, they wouldn't necessarily have a good result. Moreover, it was just a loss. It didn't mean that they didn't have a chance. 2 out of 3 matches would be the best. Emoshio's eyes turned, falling on Lu Mabai. His eyes sparkled. He had confidence in Lu Mabai. He was the Nether chef who had received the inheritance of the Nether prison's Qilin chef. Looking at the 9 Revolution Heart of Cooking Path, it reminded him of the inheritance of the Nether prison's 9 Revolution Nether Chef clan. That clan was a big clan in the Nether cooking realm, and it was famous for its chef's challenge. It was really terrifying. As this Lu Mabai could get that kind of inheritance, of course, he wasn't ordinary. In terms of innate talent, there was still a gap between him and the genius disciples of the top Qilin chef. However, compared to the Heaven Chief Realm's Heaven Chief Realm, it was enough to crush him. Emoshio had pinned his hope on Lu Mabai. Perform well. If you can win the chef's challenge and enter the Nether prison, I will take you to meet the top Qilin chefs of your clan. Emoshio patted Lu Mabai's shoulder, saying that. The corners of Lu Mabai's mouth rose and light flashed in his eyes. You don't need to tell me. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Lu Mabai stuck out his tongue, licking his lip. Her hair floated in the air. Taking a step, his body soared up into the sky, landing in the middle of the formation. He landed, playing with the black kitchen knife in his hand. The knife was inlaid with a blood-red gem, which emitted an extremely strange aura. The surrounding Heaven Chief Realms experts were quiet. They gazed at Lu Mabai in the formation, their eyes filled with hatred. Their heart of cooking path had been taken away by Lu Mabai one by one. Lu Mabai had made them feel despair. He had cut off their path of cooking path. That was why they hated him. That was why they were frightened. Bam! The spinning kitchen knife was suddenly grabbed by Lu Mabai, pointing at Bufang, who was standing next to City Lord Mengqi. Owner Bu, I've been waiting for the chef's challenge between you and me for a long time, from the Bronze Palace to the Valley of Gluttony, to the Hidden Dragon Continent, to the Heaven Chief Realm. The dispute between you and me has to end. The smile on Lu Mabai's face gradually disappeared. Eventually, it turned into a cold and sinister face. His white hair fluttered, and the blood-red lines on his face seemed to come alive, wiggling. Everyone who saw it was shocked. Bufang clasped his hands, looking at Lu Mabai indifferently. The next chef's challenge was his turn. Whether he could get the Heaven Tree seed or not would depend on this chef's challenge. The reason why he had chosen the flame from Mengqi was to prepare for the next chef's challenge. After winning the chef's challenge, he would get the Heaven Tree seed. The system's temporary task would be completed. Bufang would have the ability to fuse with immortal flames. At that time, he would be able to fuse with the Nether Flame. As for the will of the Nether Flame, what was that? Mengqi pressed Bufang's shoulder. Bufang was a little skeptical. Come on. Don't lose. The price of losing is too big. Mengqi's eyes were a little worried. Looking at Mengqi, Bufang's mouth twitched. I have never lost. His confidence was like a tsunami crashing down on Mengqi, making her feel like she was suffocating. At this moment, Mengqi felt her Qilin chef's heart throbbing. The heart of cooking path on Bufang's body emitted a terrifying aura. At the same time, Bufang turned around, landing in the formation. The entanglement between you and me. Bufang clasped his hands. The vermilion robe on his body turned scarlet, and flaming feathers fluttered behind him, slightly tilting his head. Bufang indifferently looked at Lu Mabai. Are we close? Since when did we have an entanglement? Lu Mabai's eyes, which were filled with fighting intent, froze in the next instant. His anger soared to the sky. It was as if he had punched cotton. Bufang didn't treat him as an opponent at all. It's okay. Soon you will understand what despair is. I've seen many people's despair, but the one I want the most is Owner Bu's despair. Lu Mabai stuck out his tongue, licking his lips as he sneered. The Heaven Chief's anger soared to the sky. The despair Lu Mabai mentioned should be them. At this moment, each of them clenched their fists, but they also felt helpless. The moment their heart of cooking path was snatched away, they were really desperate. No one knew when Lord Go had appeared between Bufang and Lu Mabai with his cat-like step. His dog eyes glanced at Bufang. Then, Lord Go's brows arched, revealing an excited look. This excited look made Bufang confused. The first chef's challenge, Heaven Chief Jia wins. Now, the second chef's challenge, the theme of the second chef's challenge, the surrounding people held their breaths. The theme of the chef's challenge was really important. Everyone was paying close attention to it. Lu Mabai also gazed at Lord Go. Although he was arrogant, he needed to understand the theme of the chef's challenge. And Bufang's heart moved. He suddenly understood why Lord Go arched his brows. This scheming dog's mind was too obvious. The theme of the second chef's challenge: delicious sweet and sour ribs. Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice echoed in the void. Along with it, the sound of swallowing saliva could be heard. Chapter 1088. Sweet and sour ribs? The theme of the second challenge had been announced, but everybody was a little bewildered, because no one had expected that the theme of this banquet would be to name a dish. And sweet and sour ribs was just sweet and sour ribs. Why did it have to be called delicious? Many people didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Looking at Lord Go's appearance, they knew that this dog had long prepared to use sweet and sour ribs as the theme of the second chef's challenge. At first glance, people with discerning eyes knew that this dog wanted to satisfy his desire for good food. The corners of Bu Fang's mouth twitched. Lord Go had become a scheming dog. He had to beat around the bush to eat sweet and sour ribs. Glancing at Lord Go stuck out his tongue and licked his lips, looking at Bu Fang arrogantly. Lu Mabai narrowed his eyes. The theme was sweet and sour ribs? He took a deep breath. This theme could be the theme, but it could also be said that it wasn't the theme. First, the dish had to be sweet and sour ribs. Secondly, it was difficult to make other big changes. It was really difficult to find changes and innovations in a fixed dish. However, it wasn't a problem for Lu Mabai. After experiencing the Nether Chef's inheritance, he had experienced a lot. In a chef's challenge, he would never lose. His bloodline of inheritance was born for chef's challenges. Emo Xiao had confidence in Lu Mabai because he knew how terrifying that bloodline was. It was a bloodline that could make the opponent despair. You have half a cup of tea's time to brew your emotions and think about how to cook, Lord Go said. His eyes swept through Bu Fang and Lu Mabai. The dog's mouth twitched as he said, Lord Go thinks highly of you. Bu Fang rolled his eyes. You think highly of sweet and sour ribs, right? This mangy dog had completely revealed his thoughts. City Lord Mingqi furrowed her brows, her eyes filled with worry. Lu Mabai's 9-revolution heart of cooking path made her heart palpitate. Owner Bu must win. If Owner Bu lost, the third chef's challenge would be held. The third chef's challenge was between Realm Lord Dit and that Emo Xiao. This Emo Xiao gave Mingqi even more pressure. Just by looking at him, one could feel the terrifying pressure from his body. Facing the heart of cooking path was like facing a whole world. Incomparably terrifying. Would Realm Lord Dit be able to defeat Emo Xiao? She felt that the possibility was very small. The Heaven Chief's eyes were suddenly filled with hope. The great demon. You have to win. Kill him and avenge us. A Heaven Chief suddenly let out a hoarse roar, his eyes bloodshot. Bu Fang was a little bewildered, looking at that Heaven Chief. The other Heaven Chief also pulled themselves together at this moment. Kill this beast. The great demon, we believe in you. You're our hope. The great demon, ruthlessly tear this guy's heart of cooking path. Let him taste the taste of despair. The surrounding immortal chefs roared in anger. Everyone's eyes were red. Shui Yao's hair was disheveled as she screamed. These people were the Heaven Chief, whose heart of cooking path Lu Mabai had devoured. Their screams seemed to attract many people's attention. City Lord Mengqi's heart instantly sank. Realm Lord Dit also sighed. The geniuses of their Heaven Chief realm were all finished, Emo Xiao sneered. The 9-revolution heart of cooking path relies on devouring other people's heart of cooking path to condense. After devouring one, the heart of cooking path will advance by 1 revolution. Under the 9-revolution, this Lu Mabai's heart of cooking path isn't weaker than the Qilin chef's heart. Emo Xiao said with a little envy. The 9-revolution bloodline's inheritance really made people envious and jealous. These people want to rely on an immortal chef to defeat the 9-revolution bloodline's inheritor? It's really wishful thinking, Emo Xiao sneered. Lu Mabai couldn't help but sneer. He looked at the Heaven Chief with disdain. Shut up. A bunch of losers. If I were you, I wouldn't have the guts to speak now. Losers shouldn't point fingers at the winners. Lu Mabai arrogantly looked at those people, sneering. Bu Fang furrowed his brows. A moment later, he exhaled. The Heaven Chief were filled with indignation, their anger surging. Bu Fang raised his hand and gestured for those immortal chefs to stop roaring. Everything will be explained with action. Bufang said indifferently. Then, Bufang's eyes turned to Lu Mabai. Lu Mabai also looked at him. Their gazes collided in the void, as if there were lightning bolts colliding. Lu Mabai grinned, raising his hand to draw a line on his neck at Bufang. It was obvious that he wanted to show off. Bufang twitched his mouth, shaking his head. Childish. A moment later, his mind sank into the heaven and earth farmland. Buzz, as soon as he entered the farmland, a warm breeze blew over. Bufang landed in front of the wooden house. In front of the wooden house, Nyo Han-san was lying on a chair, enjoying the breeze and taking a nap. As if sensing Bufang's arrival, he got up with a grunt. His face was full of flattery. "Hey, Owner Bu, what brings you here again?" Nyo Han-san came to Bufang's side, his face full of smiles. However, Bufang just stared at Nyo Han-san. His eyes didn't move, which made Nyo Hansen's hair stand on end. "Owner Bu, the strongest demon king you threw in has been tied up and suppressed by this old bull. If you want to eat beef, you can find that big black bull. Nyo Han-san, haven't bathed for 3 months." Nyo Hansen's bull nose puffed out white smoke. Bufang rolled his eyes. Of course, he didn't want to eat beef. "The wheat you gave me seems a little strange," Bufang said. "Wheat?" Nyo Hansen's eyes suddenly lit up. "That's the wheat that this old bull recently hybridized. It's fused with the will of the Great Path in the heaven and earth farmland. How is it? Aren't you surprised? Aren't you surprised?" Bufang was slightly taken aback. Hybridized wheat that had fused with the will of the Great Path. What a pity! After experimenting for so long, I only made a little. However, Owner Bu, if you believe in this old bull will definitely make an ingredient that will shock the heavens and make the earth cry. Nyo Han-san patted his chest as he said, "I'm a bull that has dreams and wants to plant a piece of the sky. I have high hopes for you." Bufang thought for a moment, then nodded seriously. To be able to fuse the will of the Great Path into an ingredient, even if it was just a little, was already an extraordinary thing. This Nyo Han-san seemed to be a treasure. Letting him take care of the heaven and earth farmland was really a good idea. "Alright, where's the 8 treasures pig? I'm going to the chef's challenge now, so I need its support." After chatting with Nyo Han-san for a while, Bufang clasped his hands and looked around. In the distance, the 8 treasures pig, which was running around with 80, suddenly froze. The pork on its body trembled, and in the next instant, it twisted its buttocks and ran away. "Owner Bu, do you need this old bull to catch that fat pig?" Nyo Han-san rubbed his palms together as he asked. "I'm going to the chef's challenge, so I need pork ribs," Bufang said. Nyo Han-san was instantly stunned. "Owner Bu, why don't you use that black bull steak ribs? In this old bull's opinion, that bull's grade is higher than the 8 treasures pigs. Moreover, if Owner Bu wants it, this old bull can try to infuse the will of the Great Path into the beef." Nyo Hansen's eyes shone brightly as he stared at Bufang. That gaze made Bufang's hair stand on end. Although the 8 treasures pig was not bad, it had only been cultivated for a short period of time. Although it had been cultivated in the heaven and earth farmland for a long time, and the grade of the ingredient had increased, it was still lacking compared to the strongest demon king, the Black Bull. Bufang rubbed his chin, thinking that what Nyo Han-san said might be feasible. If the wheat was so strong, if the will of the Great Path was infused into the beef, it might raise the grade of the beef. Now, the hybrid Black Bull? Can we make it in time? Isn't it too hasty? Bufang furrowed his brows and said uncertainly. "Hybrid? Of course, it's too late. Moreover, we can't find a cow. However, this old bull still has a way." Nyo Han-san narrowed his eyes, and his eyes shone brightly. Bufang always felt that he was a mad scientist. This Nyo Han-san wanted to stir up trouble. Perhaps Nyo Han-san had really researched a way to infuse the will of the Great Path into the ingredients. Nyo Han-san hurriedly left, asking Bufang to wait for a while before disappearing. Not long after, the heaven and earth farmland resounded with a heaven-shaking moo. The moo was filled with indignation and endless grief. Then, in the distance, Bufang saw Nyo Han-san holding a piece of beef rib, jolting his buttocks as he walked over. Receiving the beef rib from Nyo Han-san, Bufang's face instantly became extremely strange. "Owner Bu, don't worry. This old bull's ingredients are all natural and pollution-free." Nyo Han-san patted his chest. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched. "As long as you're happy." A moment later, he picked up the steak rib, said goodbye to Nyo Han-san, and left the farmland. In the distance, after Bufang had left, 80 and the 8 treasures pig poked their heads out of the bushes. Then, they continued to run wildly. Bufang's mind returned, and a big piece of beef rib appeared in his hand. Weighing the meat in his hand, Bufang looked at Lu Mabai in the distance. When Bufang took out the beef, Lu Mabai's body shook, and he stared at the beef in Bufang's hand. "Stupid cow?" Lu Mabai felt the aura of the strongest demon king on the beef. The corners of his mouth twitched. That stupid cow acted on its own, and now, it had become Owner Bu's ingredient. It brought about its own destruction. "Although that stupid cow's meat isn't bad, Owner Bu, my ingredient is much better than that stupid cow's," Lu Mabai said coldly. Then, his mind flickered. A bestial roar arose. Bufang's eyes shrank. A moment later, a pitch-black spirit beast appeared by Lu Mabai, opening its massive mouth. A terrifying aura diffused instantly. "Taotai." Bufang was bewildered. That's right. This time, Lu Mabai had chosen a taotai as his ingredient. He wanted to use it to cook sweet and sour ribs. As the first valley master of the Valley of Gluttony, of course, he was familiar with taotais. It wasn't a purebred taotai, but it was a terrifying existence at the 8-star beast emperor level. The blood-red gem on the knife in Lu Mabai's hand glowed. That taotai looked as though it was struck by lightning, roaring indignantly, "Be angry! The angrier you are, the better the taste of the ingredient will be." Lu Mabai used his mind to control the blood-red gem. The light from the gem became more dazzling. That taotia's body shook unceasingly, roaring unceasingly. The onlookers only felt a wave of noise hit them. After a long time, Lu Mabai had dug out the ribs on the taotia's back to cook sweet and sour ribs. The choice of meat was the most important. Of course, the ribs were the best choice. Grabbing the bloody taotia's ribs, Lu Mabai gazed at Bufang, grinning. "Use that stupid cow's meat. Owner Bu, do you think you can influence me and make me make a mistake? I'm afraid you're wrong. You have to pay the price of a crushing defeat," Lu Mabai said coldly. A moment later, the pitch-black nether energy in his hand shot up into the sky. Then, a blood-colored stove appeared above his head and smashed into the arena with a deafening boom. It seemed to hit everybody's heart. Everybody felt a burst of pressure. Lu Mabai reached out his hand, gently flicking the kitchen knife. Instantly, a buzzing sound shot up into the sky. Then, the pressure of the heart of Cooking Path emerged behind Lu Mabai. 1, 2, 3. The pressure of the 9 hearts of Cooking Path shot up into the sky, turning into a storm. The 9 hearts of Cooking Path were like 9 scorching suns, blooming with dazzling radiance. The terrifying pressure pressed down on Bufang. 9 revolution heart of Cooking Path. "I will win." Lu Mabai laughed crazily. The Heaven Chief felt a burst of pressure. All of them kept silent. The pressure of the 9 hearts of Cooking Path fused together. It was really terrifying. The great Demon King would have a hard time even holding a kitchen knife. The chef's challenge between the first and second in the Heaven Chief competition. Was the great demon going to lose? Chapter 1089. After releasing the 9 revolution heart of Cooking Path, Lu Mabai's aura seemed to turn into a towering mountain. Under the pressure, everyone felt that it was hard to breathe. Their eyes were filled with fear. Too terrifying. Many Heaven Chief Realm experts were shivering. They had all had a chef's challenge with Lu Mabai, but at that time, Lu Mabai didn't use his full strength. He wasn't even serious, and his aura had never been so formidable. However, facing the great demon, Lu Mabai had used his full strength, releasing the 9-revolution heart of cooking path. At this moment, everyone felt a huge shadow looming over their heads, making it hard for them to breathe. The 9-revolution Nether Chef clan is famous for their chef's challenges. Their understanding of chef's challenges surpasses many Nether Chef. They will complete the chef's challenge from all directions, making their opponents despair and make them tremble. Emoshio said. His eyes were bright as he stared at Lu Mabai, who had released 9 scorching suns. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. He rubbed his palms. It was almost time for him to prepare for the next chef's challenge. His opponent was the strongest Qilin chef of the Heaven Chief realm. If he defeated the strongest Qilin chef, the faith of the entire Heaven Chief realm would collapse. At that time, the entire Heaven Chief realm would become his backyard, and countless resources would be at his disposal. The sacred grade immortal ingredients would also belong to him. With the resources of the entire Heaven Chief realm, he could even try to break through to the Divine Chef realm. Of course, he could only think about it. After all, the Divine Chef realm was too high to reach. Aura, pressure, knife skills, the heart of chef's challenge, and cooking utensils can all become the means of the 9-revolution clan to suppress their opponent. Under Lu Mabai's bombardment, I'm afraid this little Heaven Chief won't be able to hold on for long, Emo Xiu said confidently. Beside him, Zheng Quangjou's nostrils were fuming white smoke. At this moment, he also calmed down. However, there was still a flame of anger in his heart. Bufang held the ribs and looked at Lu Mabai indifferently. The 9-revolution heart of cooking path was like 9 blazing suns shining on Bufang, as if it wanted to roast Bufang. However, Bufang's so-called pressure was useless against Bufang. After condensing the 9-revolution heart of cooking path, Lu Mabai's heart of cooking path's power was equivalent to a Qilin chef's heart. Incomparably terrifying. However, Bufang did not seem to be afraid at all. Bufang's mind flickered. Suddenly, a tiger's roar resounded. Bufang reached out his hand, swiping his tiger head belt. Then, the white tiger heaven stove appeared. A tiger's roar seemed to break through everything. The light from the 9 blazing suns dimmed a little. He smashed the white tiger stove into the arena. The aura on Bufang's body suddenly changed, and his eyes became incomparably sharp. The white tiger was in charge of killing, and it occupied Bufang's mind. It couldn't help but affect Bufang's emotions, making his eyes so sharp. Lu Mabai's eyes slightly shrank. He realized that Bufang was actually not shivering under his heart of cooking path. Worthy of being owner Bu. Really extraordinary. However, I want to see how long you can endure. Lu Mabai sneered. The heart of cooking path pressed down on Bufang, as if it wanted to compress Bufang into a corner, making him unable to move. Huff Bufang placed the ribs of the strongest demon king on the stove, gently exhaling. In the next instant, his eyes slightly lifted, looking at Lu Mabai in the distance. After condensing the heart of cooking path, you don't want to cook properly. Are you going to use it as a circus? Bufang's face was expressionless as he said indifferently. These words made Lu Mabai's face stiffen, then, the vermilion robe on Bufang's body suddenly turned fiery red, as if a bird was singing loudly. The wings on his back spread out, and fiery feathers swirled. On the other hand, Bufang's aura was rising steadily. At this moment, Bufang, who was as calm as an ancient well, seemed to gradually become extremely terrifying. The heart of cooking path emerged, turning into a phantom behind Bufang. It was an incomparably deep phantom. It seemed to be looking at him from a long-time tunnel. Boom! Lu Mabai's eyes shrank, taking in a breath of cold air. The 9-revolution heart of cooking path almost collapsed at this moment. He took a step back and stomped his foot down, causing the ground to crack. Lu Mabai was so scared. Since he had received the inheritance of the 9 Revolution Nether Chef clan, it was the first time he was defeated in the Heart of Cooking path. It should be known that his Heart of Cooking path was comparable to a Qilin chef's heart. Bu Fang didn't have the 9 Revolution Heart of Cooking path, so how could he resist him? He was an immortal chef. Did he have the heart of a Qilin chef? In fact, Bu Fang didn't have the heart of a Qilin chef. However, Bu Fang's Heart of Cooking path was incomparably tough and firm. If the 9 Revolution Heart of Cooking path was a spear, Bu Fang's Heart of Cooking path was the strongest shield in the world. Even a Qilin chef's heart couldn't break it. Emo Xiu suddenly clenched his fists. His eyes shrank. This heaven chief, Emo Xiu, could feel an aura from Bu Fang, which was comparable to the dark nether cooking realm's top geniuses. He had thought that this chef's challenge would be a one-sided slaughter, but now it seemed he was happy too early. A dragon roar echoed in Bu Fang's hand. A moment later, a kitchen knife soared up into the sky. The dragon bone kitchen knife bloomed with golden light as it spun in Bu Fang's hand. He clenched it, and Bu Fang's aura rose one more time. Lifting his head, he indifferently glanced at Lu Mabai in the distance. It made Lu Mabai feel a wave of pressure. All of a sudden, Lu Mabai burst out laughing. Worthy of being owner Bu, the one who has been entangled with me for a long time. Come, let's have a good chef's challenge and end this. Ba-dump, ba-dump. Waves of heartbeats reverberated. The kitchen utensils in Lu Mabai's hands were inlaid with blood-colored gems. Twisting the kitchen knife, Lu Mabai threw the Taotia's spine up. The Taotia's spine seemed to hover in the air. It didn't fall immediately. Lu Mabai held the kitchen knife, taking a step backward. The knife retracted to the left side of his waist. His body tilted. A wave of terrifying pressure gathered unceasingly. Behind Lu Mabai, a blood-colored long sword with nether energy twirling in the sky emerged. The long sword wasn't ordinary at all. It looked like it was about to bloom with dazzling radiance. Knife skill. Sword drawing style. Lu Mabai shouted in a low voice. A moment later, the kitchen knife slashed out from his waist, as though he had just pulled out a sharp sword. That blood-colored long sword bloomed with endless blood-colored radiance. The brilliance covered the sky, dazzling people's eyes. Using the knife to draw the sword, this knife skill was extreme to the extreme. All the Heaven Chief chefs felt as though their hearts were about to explode. This knife skill made them feel so stifled that they couldn't breathe. What a powerful knife skill! Realm Lord Dit also became solemn. Even though he was a high-grade Qilin chef, this knife skill was really amazing. City Lord Mengqi's eyes shrank. She worriedly looked at Bu Fang. Could the great demon resist it? Bu Fang also felt the pressure. The pressure of the knife skill was a very important part of the chef's challenge. Bu Fang took a deep breath. He held the dragon bone kitchen knife. The golden radiance was dazzling and dazzling. Behind him, an illusory figure appeared, holding a kitchen knife. That knife seemed to have condensed a peerless magnificence in a generation. That knife seemed to tear the sky. Knife skill. Cutting immortal style. Bu Fang shouted. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife gently swung out. Boom. Their auras collided with each other. It seemed to turn into a layer of ripples, scattering everywhere. At this moment, the surrounding Heaven Chief gasped for breath. Their backs were soaked in sweat. They wiped their foreheads, cold sweat trickling down their foreheads. This knife skill competition is too terrifying. Those two monsters. Lu Yi lost to them. It's not wrong. My legs are shaking. I don't even dare to lift my knife to compete with them. The Heaven Chief sucked in a breath of cold air, struggling to speak. Puff. Lu Mabai's eyes narrowed. A moment later, he raised his hand to wipe his face. There was a fine wound on his cheek, and a trickle of blood seeped out of it. However, he didn't care. Then, he focused on cooking. With one slash, the tautai ribs were processed. They fell into the porcelain bowl one after another. He wiped his palm across the ribs and drained the water within them. His 5 fingers moved. Blood-colored gems emerged one by one. His slender fingers seemed to be playing a peerless piece of music, touching those jars. A fragrant aroma filled the air. He sprinkled the jars. He began to marinate the tautai ribs. On the other side, Bufang wasn't idle. He began to process the ingredients at a steady pace. He had cooked sweet and sour ribs countless times. Now that he was doing it again, he had an indescribable feeling. However, he couldn't use the old sweet and sour ribs. He needed to change. And to change, it was easier said than done. Boom! The black turtle constellation wok hit the white tiger heaven stove. On the other side, Lu Mabai also smashed his wok on the stove. Their movements were almost synchronized. Bufang took a step back. Opening his mouth, he spurted a golden flame lotus. The fire lotus spun in his hand. With a thought, the golden fire lotus turned white with a bang. He flicked his finger. The flame lotus entered the white tiger heaven stove. It burned fiercely under the black turtle constellation wok. Heating the wok, adding oil, the oil in the wok began to rise. Gulp, gulp. Shortly after, the hot oil in the wok began to boil, rolling. On a blue and white porcelain plate, Bufang put the marinated demon beef into it, sprinkling white powder. This powder was made from a kind of spirit potato that Bufang had grown in the heaven and earth farmland. After covering the demon beef with the powder, Bufang began to process the other ingredients. Scale-tail scallions, purple garlic, sun-mother ginger, and other ingredients were taken out by Bufang. Bufang took out a kind of spirit fruit, peeled off its skin, squeezed out the juice, and dripped it on the marinated demon beef. Purple garlic was diced, scale-tail scallions, sun-mother ginger, and other ingredients were processed and placed in a bowl. Taking out the acheron of helplessness wine, he dripped it into the porcelain bowl. He also took out the other seasonings and sprinkled them in. This time, Bufang didn't take out the enhanced abyssal chili sauce. The oil was boiling. Bufang took the marinated demon beef. Under his will, each piece of demon beef floated up. A moment later, the demon beef jumped neatly into the wok. Plop, plop. Neat and orderly. As soon as the meat entered the wok frothed, sizzling unceasingly. A meaty aroma filled the air, lingering in the entire place. This aroma seemed to melt people's hearts. Instinctively, their noses couldn't help but twitch. Lord Go had opened his mouth wide, sticking out his tongue and drooling. He couldn't help but face the sky and bark. Lord Go's resistance to sweet and sour ribs would always be zero. So fragrant! Everyone sighed with emotion. They were so amazed. All of a sudden, just when people were immersed in the aroma of Bufang's sweet and sour ribs on the other side, a burst of thick aroma exploded. That aroma was even thicker and more surging, like a giant beast that could devour everything. Everyone's taste buds couldn't help but be attracted to it. Everyone was amazed. Over there, Lu Mabai's eyes were serious as he put the tautai meat into the wok of oil. Inside the wok, the hot oil swirled, turning into a vortex. As soon as the tautai meat entered the wok, it spun with the oil. The aroma diffused like a bomb. It was different now. At this moment, the two of them finally had a difference in their cooking methods. At this moment, the suspense of the outcome began to emerge. Everyone focused, gazing at the two of them, who were concentrating on their cooking. Their hearts were surging with excitement and nervousness. Chapter 1090. Sizzle. The entire place was silent. Everybody was staring at the two people in the array arena, who were concentrating on cooking. The aroma of meat rolled, filling the entire place. Thud, thud, thud in Lu Mabai's direction. Chunks of tautai meat fell into the wok of oil. As the wok swirled, they were swallowed. White foam sizzled out from the writhing pieces of meat. After all the chunks of meat fell into the wok, Lu Mabai's eyes focused. A moment later, he reached out his hand. The blood-red lines on his face seemed to tremble. His mental force swept out, covering the black wok in just a blink of an eye. It seeped into the wok, sensing the changes in the ingredient. Monstrous nether energy was released from his body, winding around the black wok. The next step was the key. He had to control the heat of the fried meat. If he made a mistake, the taste of the meat would be completely different. On the other side, Bu Fang was almost at the stage of sensing the temperature of the fire. The corners of his mouth rose. He shook his hand. After shaking off the white powder on his hand, his will swept out and enveloped the wok of oil. Buzz! The black turtle's roar reverberated, stirring up monstrous waves in Bu Fang's spirit sea. His powerful spiritual energy spread out, causing ripples to form in the air. Everyone was shocked. The atmosphere became stagnant all of a sudden. Only the bubbling sound of the boiling oil could be heard. The surrounding heaven chief held their breath. The way the two of them cooked sweet and sour ribs was almost the same. Until now, there wasn't much difference. However, both of them knew that if they wanted to defeat the other, they had to make some changes. Everybody knew how to cook ordinary sweet and sour ribs, but if they wanted to defeat the other, they couldn't rely on ordinary sweet and sour ribs. So, what kind of innovation would they make for sweet and sour ribs? Lu Mabai used Taotai meat, while the Great Demon used demon beef. Their ingredients were somewhat different. However, the key to cooking sweet and sour ribs wasn't the ingredients but the chef's cooking skill. Boom! An invisible wave spread out. Bu Fang and Lu Mabai raised their heads, their eyes filled with sharpness. At this moment, the two's spiritual waves spread out at the same time and turned into ripples that collided with each other. The silent collision kicked up a strong wind, causing the fragrance of meat to spread out. At this moment, the fragrance of the meat was no longer as strong as before, and it began to gradually restrain itself. Bu Fang's hand shook, and a pair of wooden chopsticks fell into his hand. The chopsticks spun in his hand for a while, and then suddenly fell down. Patter, patter, patter. With one hand behind his back, Bu Fang held a pair of chopsticks with the other. The chopsticks fell into the oil pan precisely and were taken out. The golden oil splashed in the air. Pieces of golden fried meat immediately flew out and fell into the blue and white porcelain bowl that Bu Fang had placed on the stove, rolling inside. There was even oil bubbling on top of the golden meat. On the other side, Lu Mabai was much more direct. He directly took out a net ladle made of purple bamboo, scooping it into the oil pan. Instantly, all the golden meat pieces were scooped up, rolling on the bamboo net. Lu Mabai's skill was very skillful. His hand, which was holding the farthest handle of the net ladle, shook once. Instantly, the net ladle pounded on the meat, filtering the oil through the holes. The golden taoyes meat in the bamboo net moved, rolling backward and rolling unceasingly. Sizzling steam soared up into the sky, dispersing the oil. Swish, grabbing the net, he poured the meat pieces into the bowl. Then, Lu Mabai's eyes fell on the oil pan. Grabbing the edge of the wok with one hand, he gave a low shout. With one hand, he lifted the black wok from the stove. The boiling oil inside was rolling. His other hand was holding a kitchen knife, which he swung fiercely in the air. Then, the void was torn apart, revealing a hole. Lu Mabai grabbed the black wok, pounding it on the hole. Swish! The golden oil poured down like a waterfall, pouring into the hole. Shortly after, it was swallowed. After pouring all the oil into the wok, it smashed the wok back onto the stove with a thud. The nether flame burned, raising the temperature of the wok. On the other side, after Bu Fang scooped up all the meat pieces, he prepared to deal with the oil. Xiao Bai, come here. Bu Fang didn't tear the void like Lu Mabai. Instead, he continued to work, calling Xiao Bai's name without turning his head. Standing on Xiaopi's bed, Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flashed. The metal wings on his back opened, flapping once. In just a blink of an eye, he appeared by Bufang. Bufang grabbed the black turtle constellation walk with one hand, throwing it toward Xiao Bai. "Open your mouth," Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flashed. He raised his fan-like hand, rubbing his head. Then, his round belly opened, revealing a black hole. Bufang poured the oil into White Yi's stomach, and when he was done, White Yi's eyes lit up. After that, Xiao Bai retracted the black hole in his belly. As if he was drunk, he staggered back to Xiaopi's back. Bufang's way of handling the oil made many people around him unable to restrain their laughter. Many people looked at Whitey with a strange look in their eyes. This earth-immortal puppet had such an ability? Sizzle, steam rose from the wok, and there was still some oil left in it. Facing the oil, Bufang began to prepare the drunken sauce. The importance of the drunken sauce to sweet and sour ribs was self-evident. Taking out a spirit fruit, Bufang's dragon bone kitchen knife spun. His wrist seemed to be dancing, circling the spirit fruit. Then, the skin of the spirit fruit was cut off. Knife marks were left on the spirit fruit. From those knife marks, drops of golden juice dripped. The juice dripped into the wok. Instantly, a wave of sour fruit aroma arose. The entire place was filled with a thick sour smell, which made people instinctively salivate. Gulp. The sour fruit brought a wave of fragrance. After the juice dripped into the wok, Bufang used a spatula to spread the juice. Sizzle. Sizzle. Shortly after, the juice boiled. Then, he tossed it. The fruit flew up like a meteor. Many people were dazzled. The fruit, which was floating in the air and was about to fall, was cut into countless pieces by Bufang. The broken pieces fell into the wok one after another. Bufang grabbed the black turtle constellation wok, starting to stir-fry. Sizzle. 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 The other ingredients were also thrown into the wok. Green smoke arose as the wok was stir-fried. Boom. Boom. Flames rose from the wok like a giant roaring beast. Everyone present was a chef, so they weren't that surprised. Bufang was also calm, continuing to stir-fry. The fire was extinguished, and the spatula was lifted up. Inside, there was a thick golden liquid dripping down. In the distance, Lu Mabai's cooking had also reached the stage of preparing the drunken juice. Apparently, the two of them had different understandings of the drunken juice. Lu Mabai carefully took out a crystal jar. Inside the jar was a pitch-black liquid. He opened the lid. A sour smell filled the air. It was a kind of vinegar that Lu Mabai made himself, which had a thick vinegar aroma. Adding some vinegar into the wok, he continued to prepare the drunken juice. An intoxicating sour aroma filled the air. The entire place was filled with the sound of people swallowing their saliva. Lord Go was lying in the air, his dog tail wagging. He was so excited. Sweet and sour ribs. They're all sweet and sour ribs. Thinking about it, he was a little excited. Buzz, as the cooking process reached its final stage, thick black clouds slowly rolled over from the sky. Everyone instinctively lifted their heads to look at the sky. The thick black clouds were like a sea of clouds. From a distance they came with waves. Shortly they covered people's heads, bringing with them a terrifying pressure. Rumble! Rumble! There were lightning bolts spreading. There was no doubt that the lightning bolts above Bufang's head were blue, while the one above Lu Mabai's head was black. Everyone was bewildered. Was Lu Mabai cooking the dark delicacy? Many people slightly focused their eyes. The color change of lightning bolts was the most basic way to judge the type of food. When Lu Mabai had participated in the chef's challenge, the lightning punishments he had triggered were all blue, which meant that he hadn't cooked the dark delicacy. Rumble! Thunder boomed like a sharp sword of light, tearing the sky. It seemed like it wanted to split the layers of clouds. After the uproar, many people gazed at the sky. The chef's challenge between City Lord Mengqi and Zheng Quangzhou had triggered 7 lightning punishments. That was already an incredible level. They wondered what level of lightning punishments the great demon and Lu Mabai had triggered in the chef's challenge. Everyone was very curious about it. Bufang didn't care about the lightning punishments in the sky. He grabbed the blue and white porcelain plate, then threw the golden demon beef that had been fried in oil into the wok. Holding the black turtle constellation wok, he stir-fried for a while. Steam rose, and the aroma wafted out in spirals. The aroma spread, then converged, and then spread again. It went through 3 stages. Each time, it made the aroma more mellow, especially the sour flavor, which was different from the others. He threw in the purple garlic, scale-tail scallion, sun-mother ginger, and other ingredient. After stir-frying for a while, the aroma almost solidified. Then, he poured it into the prepared flat blue and white porcelain plate. Swish, the sauce emitted an enchanting orange luster. Immortal energy wound around it, making it look stagnant. Pieces of sweet and sour ribs fell on the plate. The orange-red color revealed a little darker, which was the color of the meat. A steaming hot aroma spread from it. Bufang placed the dish on the stove, and a fruit that looked like a burning flame appeared in his hand. The dragon bone kitchen knife cut it. The fruit was cut open. Swish, the fragrant juice flowed down, sprinkling on the dish. Everyone was suspicious. The great demon used 3 different kinds of spirit fruits in this dish. Was that the difference? A clean cloth was used to wipe the impurities around the plate. Bufang gently exhaled, taking a step back. Triple transformation sweet and sour ribs, done. Bufang's faint voice resounded through the whole place. As soon as his voice fell, thunder boomed in the sky. An arc of lightning tore the sky. On the other side, Lu Mabai had also finished cooking. His dish was different from Bufang's. Bufang's dish was orange-red in color, but his dish was actually a kind of pitch-black color. It was so black that it glowed and sparkled. There was heat, fragrance, and a sour taste. It was a unique sweet and sour ribs. The sauce was extremely thick. It poured over the ribs and was still bubbling. The bubbles burst, and the aroma soared. Dark Tautai sweet and sour ribs, done. Lu Mabai's confident voice boomed. Boom. Both dishes were done. Hot air and fragrance swirled around him, as if they had materialized. Above Lu Mabai's dish, a ferocious pitch-black Tautai appeared, its mouth wide open. The Tautya's bestial roar was deafening. And above Bufang's sweet and sour ribs, an orange demon bull appeared. The demon bull mooed, competing with the Tautai. Boom. Boom. The lightning punishment, which had been rolling for a long time, finally couldn't stand it anymore. Black lightning and blue lightning struck at the same time. The eyes of the surrounding heaven chief shrank. Their hearts seemed to be squeezed by a big hand, their bodies shivering. Who would win and who would lose would finally be decided. In everyone's eyes, the lightning tore and struck. Chapter 1091. Everybody lifted their heads to look at the sky. There, dark clouds rolled as if they wanted to press down on a city. Lightning bolts rolled and roared in the dark clouds, bringing with them terrible fluctuations that shook heaven and earth. The thunder dragon, which was made of black lightning bolts, was like a dark sword, tearing through the clouds, accompanied by a low, oppressive roar. The blue thunder dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws, roaring in the sky. The black and blue lightning punishments belonged to Lu Mabai and Bufang, respectively. The former cooked a dark delicacy, which attracted the black lightning punishment. Bufang's food attracted the blue lightning punishment. The lightning dragons coiled around him, and there seemed to be continuous roars coming from them. According to normal practice, everyone thought that it would be a collision between the 2 thunder dragons. One black and one blue thunder dragon would collide in the void. And the truth was indeed as they had thought. The thunder dragons poured down, colliding with each other. The black and blue entangled, causing a terrible explosion and roar. The 2 of them separated as soon as they touched, bursting out black and blue lightning arcs, tearing the void as if it was about to shatter. The two lightning punishments separated as soon as they touched each other, smashing toward the two chefs on the array arena. The audience instantly went into an uproar. What's going on? Isn't the lightning punishment in the chef's challenge supposed to fight to the death? It's the first time I've seen lightning punishments attacking chefs in a chef's challenge. Can he block it? I think it's hard to block it. The surrounding Heaven Chief took in a breath of cold air. They could feel the terrible power contained in that lightning punishment. That power made his body shiver uncontrollably. Bufang's eyes twinkled. In front of him, the orange-red demon bull mooed, its horns pointing to the sky. Swoosh! In the distance, Xiao Bai, who was standing on Xiaopi's back, looked like he was drunk. Lightning shot out from his mechanical eyes. A moment later, the metal wings on his back opened. With a flap of the fan, a loud rumble resounded as it flew toward the lightning arc that was descending on Bufang. Its round belly spun, creating a huge black hole. Boom! Blue lightning struck down. Xiao Bai stood on the arena with his stomach facing the sky. A black hole swept out, and the lightning dragons were all absorbed by the black hole. Hua la la! The oppressive thunder dragon disappeared, stirring up a gale. Bufang clasped his hands behind his back as he stood in the arena. As he watched Xiao Bai fight against Lei Tang, the corners of his mouth twitched involuntarily. "There's no rush, there's plenty for you to eat," Bufang murmured softly. The great demon's earth immortal puppet took action and blocked the lightning punishment. Everyone immediately felt relieved. On the other side, Lu Mabai's black lightning punishment also fell. Lu Mabai did not have an earthly immortal puppet, and he did not intend to use it to fight. Instead, he casually tossed out a small black bowl. The small bowl flew out and immediately floated above his head, spinning continuously. Thunder-devouring bowl? You've even inherited this thing? Emo Shio looked at the black bowl, bewildered. He did not expect this. The thunder-devouring bowl was a nether tool of the 9 Revolution Nether Chef's clan, which was specially used to fight against lightning punishments. It could swallow all lightning punishments and gather them in the bowl. This kind of immortal tool was very precious. Even in Nether Prison, there were not many of them. He did not expect that Lu Mabai would have one. The black lightning dragon fell, swallowed by the black bowl, turning into a lightning arc inside. Lu Mabai clasped his hands, letting his black robe flutter noisily. He wore a faint smile on his face. With the thunder-devouring bowl, he was not afraid of the lightning punishment. He had passed the first lightning punishment. However, shortly after, the second lightning punishment began to brew in the cloud. Just like before, it quickly flew toward the two chefs. They're evenly matched, so the lightning punishments don't attack each other. Realm Lord Dit furrowed his brows, stroking his golden hair. He had never seen an evenly matched opponent like this before. 1, 2, 3 The lightning strikes roared unceasingly. After each strike, Bufang and Lu Mabai used their tricks to dissolve it. 4 lightning punishments fell in a row. The Heaven Chief was in an uproar. This level of lightning punishment had surpassed the immortal chef's limit. However, looking at the thunderclouds, it seemed the 5th lightning punishment was brewing. How monstrous were these two chefs? At the immortal chef realm, they could trigger 5 lightning punishments. There was a loud rumble. The sky seemed to be torn apart. The 5th lightning punishment finally fell. Twisting and turning, a terrifying pressure filled the sky. The thunder-devouring bowl spun unceasingly, crazily swallowing the 5th lightning dragon. The lightning dragon kept drilling into the bowl, making it tremble. On the other side, Xiao Bai soared up into the sky. Holding the war god stick, he aimed at the lightning punishment, coiling around the lightning dragon and swallowing it. He was smashed into the ground by the thunder dragon. The arena shook hard. Everybody's heart sank. Did he fail? No matter what, it was the 5th lightning punishment. How could an earth immortal puppet resist it? Everybody took in a breath of cold air. However, shortly after, their worries disappeared. Because the light in the arena had dispersed, although Xiao Bai looked disheveled, he staggered to get up. He raised his large, fan-like hand and rubbed his round, chubby head. His mechanical eyes moved, walking down the arena. He blocked it. The surrounding immortal chefs exhaled in relief. Then, everyone narrowed their eyes. The lightning punishment resistance was over. What they needed to do next was the confrontation between their dishes. At this moment, it seemed the winner of their dishes was about to be decided. Lu Mabai put away the thunder-devouring bowl. This bowl was very important to him. With it, he didn't need to worry about the lightning punishment. He was different from Bufang. If he lost the thunder-devouring bowl, it would be tough for him to resist the fifth lightning punishment. He didn't have an abnormal earth immortal puppet like Xiao Bai. Slowly, he picked up the bowl of sweet and sour ribs on the stove. This bowl of sweet and sour ribs had a black juice flowing on it, which he had carefully mixed. Tasted really good, and just by smelling it, it increased people's appetite. Compared to the ordinary sweet and sour ribs, the innovation of his sweet and sour ribs was the juice. The juice was his ace in the hole, and it was also the key to win this chef's challenge. That was because he had added the fruit vinegar that he had carefully brewed. Boom! The Taotai phantom above the dish dispersed, turning into a thick aroma that soared into the sky. Bufang held his triple transformation demon cow sweet and sour ribs, walking out. His dish radiated dazzling light, dazzling and eye-catching. The great demon's dishes were always flashy, luxurious, and unpretentious. However, Lu Mabai was confident in his dish. With his secret fruit vinegar, it was impossible for him to lose. This was his confidence as a dark nether chef. Good. The cooking is finally over. Now it's time to taste. Lord Go stuck his tongue out. He couldn't wait anymore. The aroma of the sweet and sour ribs was too enticing, making his tail shake unceasingly. Lord Go thought that it was a wise decision to be the judge. Lu Mabai smiled confidently. He flicked his finger on the dish. Instantly, the black sweet and sour ribs flew up, flying towards the four judges. Then, it hovered in front of the three people and the dog. Dark Taotai sweet and sour ribs. Please have a taste. Lu Mabai clasped his hands, the corners of his mouth rising. He was so confident. It was made with the top-grade Taotai ribs and the fruit vinegar that he had meticulously brewed. This dish was the most serious one he had ever made in a chef's challenge. He couldn't deny that Bufang had given him a lot of pressure. He didn't dare to be careless against Bufang. The onlookers held their breaths, gazing at the four judges. They didn't know what kind of evaluation they would give after tasting the dish. Emo Xiu was satisfied. The black light was overflowing with nether energy, and the aroma was so thick that it tickled people's taste buds. Lu Mabai was worthy of being the monstrous genius who had received the inheritance of the 9 Revolution Nether Chef clan. This dark delicacy had the style of the 9 Revolution clan. It looked reserved, but it was really overbearing. He grabbed his chopsticks, gently tapping them on the table. A moment later, he reached out his chopsticks, picking up a piece of sweet and sour ribs from the porcelain bowl. The pitch-black sauce covered the sweet and sour ribs, causing the originally golden fried sweet and sour ribs to turn black. The sauce was somewhat viscous. As Emo Xiu picked it up, a long thread was pulled out. Steam rose, and the thick aroma was like an exploding aroma bomb, flooding everywhere. Everybody couldn't help but close their eyes. Sour, sweet, fragrant, meaty. All kinds of delicious flavors diffused. All kinds of flavors seemed to turn into savage Taotai beasts, swallowing them. Emo Xiu opened his mouth, shoving the piece of sweet and sour ribs with the sticky sauce into his mouth. As soon as it entered his mouth, Emo Xiu's nostrils exhaled deeply. Chewing, he couldn't help but arch his brows. As soon as the sweet and sour ribs entered his mouth, the sour taste of the sauce spread, As soon as the sour taste touched his taste buds, it spread instantly, making his saliva secrete fast. His appetite was stimulated. He chewed faster. As his teeth closed, the soft tautai meat immediately emitted a thick aroma. As a high-grade ingredient, tautai meat was almost perfect. When he chewed, the soft and tender texture made him feel as if a small hand was caressing his mouth. The intoxicating taste made people addicted. Sour but not greasy, soft but not mushy, mellow but not choking. A smile bloomed on Emoshio's cold face as he nodded his head in satisfaction. He had to say, as soon as this dish entered his mouth, it captured his mind, making him involuntarily intoxicated. The intoxicating taste of sweet and sour ribs was vividly displayed. Lord Go couldn't wait any longer. His paw swung, and 2 pieces of sweet and sour ribs flew up, entering his mouth. With 1 piece on each cheek, Lord Go couldn't help but narrow his eyes. His nose twitched. The taste of sweet and sour ribs made his body shake. This sweet and sour ribs isn't bad. Lord Go's heart shivered. He was also a little shocked by the nether cooking realm. He had always thought that only Bufang's sweet and sour ribs were the best. However, if Bufang still had the same level as before, he would lose this match. Realm Lord Dit also picked up a piece of sweet and sour ribs and put it in his mouth. He didn't say anything, but the shock in his eyes exposed his thoughts. The nether cooking realm's reputation was well-deserved. Just this move alone was enough to defeat all the monstrous talents in the Heaven Chief realm. At this point, after eating a piece of sweet and sour ribs, Lu Yi was so shocked that he didn't know what to say. Lu Yi was completely shaken by this delicacy. The intoxicating feeling seemed to turn into a drunken sea, covering his body. Lu Mabai was wild, and he indeed had the capital to be wild. Now let's give the score. Lord Go put another piece of sweet and sour ribs into his mouth, chewing as he spoke. Emoshio had already put down his chopstick. He glanced at Lord Go, who was eating happily, and couldn't help but smile. Even this dog was addicted. They would definitely win this match. He rubbed his hands. The god of Chef's challenge suddenly shot out a bloodlight, which shrouded Emoshio's body. A moment later, it turned into a score in the sky. 91 points. As soon as the score was announced, the audience was in an uproar. Emoshio had given such a high score. The great demon was really in danger. From the previous chef's challenge, Emoshio's pickiness of dishes was almost abnormal. His score was the lowest among the 4 judges. Lu Mabai clasped his hands, and the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. He looked at Bufang, who was holding a dish in the distance. He raised his brows, full of provocation. Owner Bu, is he starting to feel despair? Buzz above Lord Go's head, the score was also announced. 93 points. When the surrounding Heaven Chief saw this score, their hearts sank again. Such a high score. The great demon was in danger. City Lord Mingqi clenched her fists, and her beautiful face became a little pale. Was she really going to lose? Realm Lord Dit's face was a little dignified as he also announced the score. 92 points. It was also a high score. The surrounding Heaven Chief was almost in despair. This score was like a mountain, pressing down on everyone, making it hard for them to breathe. Almost numb, their eyes turned, landing on Lu Yi's body. They hoped that Lu Yi would get a low score. That way, the great demon would have some hope. However, Lu Yi's cheeks were shaking. Obviously, he didn't dare to believe the score he had given. Buzz, big blood-red words appeared in the void. 97. As soon as this score was announced, the entire audience was silent. Lu Mabai looked at this score, suddenly covering his forehead, letting out a loud laugh. His laughter was filled with the excitement of victory. Owner Bu was going to lose. Chapter 1092. Oh! Emoshio gasped for the 3rd time. Bufang walked slowly with the dish in his hand, facing the judges. Bufang said indifferently, his eyes falling on Lu Mabai. How could he stand it? Lord Go's fat body shook. His fur stood on end as he barked. The failure of the last chef's challenge seemed to be because of this kid. The ingredients this kid provided were cheating. Each of the Heaven Chief had such a thought. Emo Shio suddenly felt his beating heart stagnate. Am I being too high profile? He came from the most scarce layer of the Heaven Chief realm, and he was the representative of the strongest monster of the Heaven Chief realm. Everyone was bewildered, lifting their heads to look at Lu Mabai. Lu Yi shoved the sweet and sour ribs into his mouth. His opponents didn't dare to challenge him in the arena. Emo Shio's eyes became complicated. That kind of tearing pain made them feel as if their hearts were bleeding. If no one could suppress Lu Mabai, they would have to live in Lu Mabai's shadow for the rest of their lives. Emo Shio clasped his hands, squinting at the plate of sweet and sour ribs in the middle. Woof! His mind was shaken, and the taste of the sauce burst out in his mouth. Great Demon King, it seemed, there was still a chance. However, compared to the fragrance and energy fluctuations, it was crushed. Lord Go stuck out his tongue, looking at Bufang with a meaningful look. Then, he spread out his hands and shrugged. So many monstrous talents of the Heaven Chief realm were swept away by another chef from the name. He knew that this sweet and sour ribs wasn't simple. Emo Shio was curious about the so-called 3 changes. In the Heaven Chief realm, how many people had he crushed in the chef's challenge? Lu Mabai coldly looked at Bufang. The sauce seemed to have a life of its own, quickly twirling around, lingering in his mouth. As the dish floated in the air, it emitted a dazzling light, and a rich fragrance spread out. It was incomparably enchanting. If there was only innovation in appearance, then there was no need to compete in this chef's challenge. Bufang would definitely lose. The people around him all cursed him in their hearts, because he was King crying again. Thus, he didn't dare to make an evaluation that went against his heart. He was expressionless as he held the dish in his hand. The dog clapped its paw. As soon as a piece of sweet and sour ribs entered his mouth, Realm Lord Dit's furrowed brows immediately smoothed out, and he instantly beamed with joy. He bit down. The Great Demon was the first person to defeat him in a chef's challenge. He saw Lu Mabai staring at the Great Demon in the distance. If the Great Demon lost, who else in Heaven Chief realm could do it? He would never get a chance to turn things around. After all, the Great Demon was best at creating miracles. A warm luster flickered, and the flowing juice made people salivate. Emo Shio's performance was somewhat beyond his expectation. He suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. That kind of high score. How could the Great Demon be indifferent? The Heaven Chief Realm Lords who were watching from below were instantly in an uproar. They suddenly stood up from their seats. Just eating a dish. Why did he add so much drama to himself? Could it be that Bufang didn't feel despair with his score? Could it be that he thought his dish could break his score record? Could it be the orange-red juice seemed to have a faintly discernible rainbow, which was very mesmerizing to people who looked at it? In the next instant, Lord Go's dog fur stood up. Are you done laughing? If you are, wipe the saliva from the corner of your mouth. He had forgotten a fact. The laughter stopped abruptly. The surrounding people's faces were somewhat dark. They felt a wave of humiliation. Lu Mabai exhaled, still confident in his heart. Everyone was stunned in terms of appearance. There were few innovations. Compared with ordinary sweet and sour ribs, it looked better, but it was just a little better. This Bufang kid had actually hidden such a delicious sweet and sour ribs from the Lord Go for so long? The Great Demon was very relaxed. The monstrous geniuses of the 5th layer, who had a huge amount of resources, felt their faces burning. However, Emo Shio didn't know that. Emo Shio was a little skeptical. In his opinion, Bufang's cooking skills and talent were indeed terrifying. Emo Shio opened his mouth, stuffing the sweet and sour ribs into his mouth. As if he had sensed Lu Mabai's gaze, Bufang looked at him, his face expressionless. Bufang's face was as calm as ever. He clenched his teeth, biting the sweet and sour ribs. The orange-red sweet and sour ribs was overflowing with light, and a wave of fragrance slowly lingered on it. Where was the despair? He reached out his hand, flicking his finger. They were a bunch of freaks, trying to find their own way. All of a sudden, looking at the familiar blue and white porcelain plate and the sweet and sour ribs, the Lord Go's dog meat shivered. Forget it. In order to eat sweet and sour ribs in the future, the Lord Go would endure it. The Heaven Chief's mind sank. Was this Lu Mabai really invincible? Lu Mabai's high score put a lot of pressure on people, but the great demon was still calm. Woof, woof? Buzz, you want to be low-key? Now that he had tasted Bufang's dish, his mood was a little complicated. Could the Heaven Chief realm produce a stronger monstrous genius? Then, a blood-red word emerged above his head. Lu Mabai's eyes fell on Bufang. It was the same familiar taste, the same recipe. However, the familiar taste had something different, which shocked the Lord Go. It made every Heaven Chief suck in a breath of cold air. The juice was flowing on the orange-red sweet and sour ribs. Now start the scoring. Triple transformation devil cow sweet and sour ribs? Bufang said. Perhaps a miracle would happen? Woof, woof, woof. Bufang was bewildered. Some Heaven Chiefs' hearts had already turned to ashes, their bodies slumping on the ground in despair. Emoshio furrowed his brows. Their dignity was mercilessly thrown to the ground and trampled on. Unless the great demon's dish could also get a high score. He, Lu Mabai, had added the inheritance of the 9 Revolution Nether Chef clan. The golden sweet and sour ribs, which looked somewhat translucent, was stained with the sticky juice, which turned into threads and dripped down. It seemed that the high score didn't affect his mind at all. Lu Mabai, who had been watching Emoshio, suddenly shrank his eyes. In terms of appearance, it was indeed better than the dark delicacy. The sweet and sour ribs, which was even more delicious than the sweet and sour dragon ribs, had been hidden for so long. They remembered the chef's challenge with Lu Mabai, where he was mercilessly crushed, and his heart of cooking path was taken. Their minds couldn't help but twitch. Could it be that there was something different about Bufang's dish? Lord Go held the blue and white porcelain plate with his paw, his tongue licking the plate as he raised his head, his face covered with the juice. He raised his paw, ready to plunder the rest of the sweet and sour ribs. Lu Yi's mood toward the great demon king was very complicated. As soon as the sweet and sour ribs entered his mouth, despair. I've never had the concept of despair. Of course, in terms of appearance, Bufang's sweet and sour ribs was a little better. After being interrupted by Bufang in such a low-key manner, the surrounding people's mood slightly relaxed. However, compared to Lu Mabai's ostentatious dish, Bufang's dish was somewhat reserved. Emoshio took a deep breath. Emoshio exclaimed 3 times in a row, making the surrounding Heaven Chiefs' faces also become bewildered. His cheeks chewed, and the meat aroma surged, spreading like waves, spreading to his entire body. It was impossible. A bite, a chew, and a lick, 3 changes. What a good 3 changes. Meat. It's good meat. His cheeks trembled, and Emoshio's eyes focused as he exclaimed in surprise. Thud. Lord Go was really looking forward to Bufang's sweet and sour ribs. Such a monstrous talent couldn't represent the Heaven Chief realm? Slowly, he bit down. A mellow sour juice aroma diffused. The faint sweetness and sourness were like a wave of warmth, wrapping the entire taste buds, making people sink into it. A wave of fluctuation spread out. He hoped that Bufang could win. Sweet and sour ribs flew out one by one, and the juice splashed, drilling into Lord Go's mouth. His eyes fell on Bufang, which seemed to be filled with disbelief. This guy. He was too much. He really wanted someone to come out and suppress this arrogant guy, But who could do that? Bufang's dish had thick immortal energy. Talking about the appearance, it was totally different from Lu Mobai's dish. The laughter lingered in their ears like a demonic tune, causing them to feel a wave of irritation. Oh! It made many Heaven Chief, who were a little desperate, feel a wave of calmness. You should be able to represent the strongest monstrous talent in the Heaven Chief realm, right? Emo Shio looked at Bufang, suddenly asking. No, 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 no. I'm so low-key. How could I represent the strongest monstrous talent in the Heaven Chief realm? However, although he endured it in his heart, Lord Go's eyes fell on the sweet and sour ribs, and he couldn't help but lick his lips. However, it was after that time that he understood the bitterness of the chef's challenge. At this time, some people were also slightly bewildered. They seemed to have discovered something terrible, and when they met Lu Mobai, it was the beginning of their nightmare. Lord Go's eyes turned, falling on Bufang. The gray hair on his head fluttered. Perhaps she had worried too much. The blue and white porcelain plate slowly spun, flying toward the judge's table. However, to their surprise, Bufang waved his hand, denying it. In the sky, the god of chef's challenge emitted a blood-red radiance. It was different from Lu Mobai's dark cuisine. Even Lu Yi was bewildered. You're the King, the great demon. Low-key my ass. Where did Bufang get the confidence to defeat him? Why was Bufang so calm? The aroma exploded like a bomb. Worthy of being this little boo-boo, who almost became this realm lord's apprentice. He does have some of this realm lord's elegance. A wave of hope spread from their hearts. Lu Mobai clasped his hands, furrowing his brows. Lord Go stuck out his tongue, unable to wait. All of a sudden, each Heaven Chief's breathing became rapid. Their eyes were filled with hope and passion. Lu Mobai laughed crazily, covering his forehead. His laughter lingered in the quiet ruins of the Heaven Tree Palace, entering the hearts of each Heaven Chief. Everyone knew that the great demon came from the first layer of Heaven Chief realm. Realm Lord Dit couldn't help but say as he chewed. Everyone's eyes seemed to be attracted by that dish. This score, soon, the dish floated in front of the 4 judges. This kind of score made people despair. Who could defeat it? Impossible. He had taken out that kind of vinegar. It was impossible to lose. The dark cuisine never cared about its appearance. Low-key, finally, it was Lord Go's turn. The surrounding people were also bewildered. Then, their emotions became a little complicated. Bufang clasped his hands, calmly saying, finally, it was Lord Go's turn. Triple transformation demon cow's sweet and sour ribs. Please have a taste. That's right. It's the whole body. If you don't improve, you will be surpassed by others, becoming someone else's stepping stone. However, looking at Bufang's calm appearance, City Lord Mingqi's clenched fists also relaxed. Looking at Bufang, her eyes slightly twinkled. Lu Mobai was stunned. Bufang's attitude made him a little dumbfounded. Emo Shio didn't say anything. Grabbing his chopsticks, he went to pick up the sweet and sour ribs. Lu Yi hurriedly picked up a piece. He felt that if he didn't take out his chopsticks, the entire plate of sweet and sour ribs would be finished by Lord Go. His calmness seemed to be transmitted to the surrounding people's minds. Realm Lord Dit's eyes and hands were sharp, reaching out his chopsticks to pick up a piece. The attitude of the 4 judges. Chapter 1093. Above Dit's head, a blood-red word emerged. This score. How could it appear? Lu Yi stood up, and the light of the god of chef's challenge descended. Emo Shio was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. This was also the reason why Lu Mobai's dish could get a high score of 97. Lord Go licked his dog paw, grunting. Lu Mobai loosened his hand. His face changed, and he opened his mouth, spurting a bloody mist. The resentment in his chest was about to burst out of his chest. This mangy dog was stirring up trouble. What's going on? Bufang spread his hands. Actually, this dog ate my sweet and sour ribs and grew fat. I can't do anything about it. He had absolute confidence that he could crush this so-called Heaven Chief Realm Lord. In the declining Heaven Chief Realm, it was very difficult to produce a high-grade Qilin chef. Without top-grade resources, how could he become a top Qilin chef of the Dark Nether cooking realm, who had experienced countless chef's challenges and accumulated countless resources? How the F***CK could the score be changed? Bufang's score was like a slap on his face. In the sky, the two big words 100 floated in the air, blooming with dazzling light. Realm Lord Dit sucked in a breath of cold air. 99 points. That dog dared to give such a score. Perhaps this was the so-called true love. Emo Xiu's eyes focused. The surrounding Heaven Chief lifted their heads, looking at the score, gritting their teeth. 96 points. They seemed to have met an unreliable Realm Lord. This time, there was another variable. Lord Go's dog paw held the blue and white porcelain bowl. Bufang twitched the corner of his mouth when he saw that 1 point had been deducted. The surrounding Heaven Chief didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was crushed. This made Emo Xiu's face even more unsightly. Emo Xiu thought for a while, then explained. He raised his brows at Emo Xiu. No need to explain. I understand. 100 points. Oh no, 99 points. This kind of score actually appeared in a chef's challenge. Lu Yi ate a mouthful of sweet and sour ribs, and was moved to tears. This score was definitely not low. As Lu Mabai stared at the score, his body began to tremble violently. A ray of light flashed down. 100 points. Oh, I'm afraid of being too proud. I gave him 99 points. Everyone blinked as they looked at Realm Lord Dit. Some of them even raised their heads and rubbed their eyes. How could this be? Simply King Dog. It attracted everyone's attention. A complicated expression appeared on his face as large blood-colored words appeared above his head. Everyone who was staring at the score was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their eyes at all. Emo Xiu was silent. He looked at Bufang with a somewhat complicated gaze. Mengqi couldn't help but facepalm. The results of the two could not be compared. Lu Mabai couldn't stop laughing. He laughed so hard that tears almost flowed out of his eyes. He covered his face with his hands. He sucked in a breath of cold air and let out a look of disbelief. He was completely crushed. Now, victory or defeat depended on that dog's score. Could it be done like that? That dog. Really, it doesn't let people be low-key. Emo Xiu and the Nether Chef standing next to him grimaced. Realm Lord Dit thought that he had learned something. You motherf***, shouted Realm Lord Dit. 93 points. Blood-colored rays of light shot out from his eyes and shot onto Emo Xiu's body, causing his entire body to blossom with radiance. Smiling awkwardly, Realm Lord Dit put on a stern face. Then, Realm Lord Dit didn't care about Emo Xiu's cold face. He took a step forward, placing his hands on his waist. His golden hair fluttered in the wind. Then, the score emerged above his head. The God of Chef's challenge didn't punish him, which meant that this score was the dog's real score. Realm Lord Dit's eyes shrank. He raised his hand, covering his mouth. Unbelievable! If that dog and the Heaven Chief had given him a lower score, he would have had a chance to overturn the situation. At this moment, the name above Emo Xiu's head shocked everybody. He had deducted 1 point because he was afraid that the other would be too arrogant. Under everybody's gazes, the score emerged. 91 points are the real score. As for the remaining 2 points, one of them will be given to the 3 changes of your dish, and the other to the ingredient. Everybody craned their necks, gazing at the score. It was just 2 points higher than the others. So infuriating, we have to be low-key and humble. Energy rippled above their heads. The Heaven Chief was thrilled. They were so excited that they were cheering. There was no commotion, no clamor, no excitement. It seemed they still had a chance. As soon as the score was announced, everybody was dumbstruck. Lu Yi rolled his eyes, feeling disoriented in the wind. The Lord Go narrowed his eyes. Buzz, the Lord Go's gaze fell on Bufang with a meaningful look. This kid, he had been hiding something from the Lord Go. Bufang looked at the score, the corners of his mouth twitching. Looking at Bufang with a complicated gaze, Lu Yi gently exhaled. Realm Lord Dit was bewildered. Then, he lifted his head, looking at the score. Realm Lord Dit finally knew what the others' faces meant. Everybody's eyes were slightly dazed. Realm Lord Dit proudly raised his head, resisting the urge to tear his clothes. This person, whenever he was happy, he wanted to show off the art of nudity. Then his eyes widened, becoming bloodshot. Covering his face, he laughed out loud. What happened to crushing him? Lu Mabai was bewildered. He spurted another mouthful of blood. He was so angry that he almost went crazy. Little Sister Mengqi, why do I have an urge to stab His Highness to death? Everybody stared at Lu Yi, incomparably hopeful. The God of Chef's challenge didn't have any emotional fluctuation. That was the score he had given. Mengqi covered her mouth, chuckling. "Zo lords, calm down," big blood-red words emerged. The score was born. Everybody held their breaths, so excited that they didn't dare to breathe loudly. The score was out. The judges would grade the contestants according to their grades. After the surrounding Heaven Chief recovered from the shock, he was so excited that he burst into an uproar. A moment later, the audience, who had regained their senses, burst out with earth-shaking roars. However, he himself was a little dumbfounded. He had actually given a high score of 93. This. F** King won? Lu Mabai's eyes shrank. His pupils shrank to the size of a mung bean. Everybody was dumbfounded. Then, what's that, God? Come, shine on me. He glanced at the strange gazes of the people around him, but his expression did not change. He looked at Bufang seriously and said, "Remember my teachings." The score slowly condensed. 100 points. Oh no, 99 points. The great demon has a lot of points. What's wrong with deducting 1 point? Zheng Guangzhou had lost. If Lu Mabai also lost, it meant that the Dark Nether Cooking Realm had completely lost. It would be better if it was a draw. Then, Mo Xiu could take action. Bufang rolled his eyes. Because of the God of Chef's challenge, his score was the score in his heart. There was no cheating. I heard that the Dark Nether Cooking Realm's Qilin chefs have exquisite cooking skills. I really want to exchange pointers with you. What a pity, tsk. Little Boo Boo had really given him face. Plop. Lu Mabai's dish was only 91. What a shameless dog. How dare you give me such a score? Lu Yi's score had become very important. He was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. He could get 97 points, but it was the level of a first-grade nether chef. Cough cough. Little Boo Boo, this realm lord gave you this score to make you understand that we can't be arrogant. The God of Chef's challenge bloomed, and a blood-red light beam shone on Lord Go's body. Although 96 points was considered high, compared to the 97 points he gave to Lu Mabai, it was still 1 point lower. Sizzle, his laughter stopped abruptly. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, the score changed, turning into 3 big words, 99. Hence, Lord Go's score was the key. Oh my God! The great demon has counterattacked. 93 points. He's invincible. Mo Xiu was dumbstruck. Looking at the score, his face gradually revealed a funny expression. No. Lu Mabai vomited blood. Realm Lord, Your Highness, can you not disgrace yourself? Lu Yi couldn't help but be bewildered. He lifted his head, looking at the score. He was dumbstruck. It meant he was King crushed. Realm Lord Dit shook his head continuously. However, his score was out. The Heaven Chief was so excited. 92 points seemed to be the same as the score he gave to Lu Mabai counterattack? The great demon has always been crushing, okay? At this moment, Bufang's score was just 1 point higher than Lu Mobai's. He could easily be surpassed. He shrugged his shoulders. Then Lu Mobai's score. If they continued to compete, he would lose. The corners of Emoshio's mouth twitched. He couldn't help but feel relieved. Losing face was one thing, but the most important thing was, if they failed, they would lose the chance to get the seed of the heaven tree. Some people even looked speechless. This realm lord, was he here to make fun of them? Bufang nodded his head, clasping his hands as he said, 2 points higher than him. What did that mean? It shrouded Realm Lord Dit's body. At this moment, they began to panic. Damn it! How could the great demon's dish have such a low score? With such a low score, why the F***ck are you crying? Lu Mobai's tense heart relaxed a little. There was still a chance. Just like the chef's challenge between Zheng Quangjiu and the goddess Mingqi, the scoring mechanism was based on the Qilin chef level, and the chef's challenge between Bufang and Lu Mobai was also based on the Heaven Chief's level. As soon as the score was out, Emoshio was a little surprised. Oh my god! What a terrifying score! He gazed at the dog. Reluctantly, he put down the plate. Under the gaze of the god of chef's challenge, the score was fair and just, and it was the real score in the heart of each judge. He lost without any suspense. He was given hope, but in the end, he was crushed mercilessly. 2-0. 0 score. Realm Lord Dit said with a serious face. Thud. The phantom of the god of chef's challenge towered into the clouds, hovering in the void. It was as though a bolt of lightning had struck him. Was that a mockery? Zhou Lord stood next to City Lord Mingqi. Looking at Realm Lord Dit's eyes, he couldn't help but clench his teeth. Bufang's score had thoroughly slapped Lu Mobai's face. His previous arrogance and unscrupulousness had stopped at this moment. Lu Yi, that traitor! Buzz, everyone's heart was pounding, and they were extremely nervous. 92, Lord Go grinned, glancing at Bufang's helpless shrug. His dog nose twitched. That was Bufang's score. Emoshio's evaluation of Bufang's dish was actually so high. At this moment, Realm Lord Dit was so proud. 93. I didn't hear it wrong, right? 99 points, no more. If there's one more point, I'm afraid you'll become arrogant. As soon as the score was out, the crowd took in a cold breath in disbelief. Instantly, the blue and white porcelain bowl was licked clean. Then, if Lord Go had given Bufang a score of 91, Lu Mobai would have won. 92 points would be a draw. This dog had given Lu Mobai a score of 93. Realm Lord Dit returned to his seat with a serious face. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.